starlight stretched boundless and vast, countless silver radiances vying to shimmer as they unfurled into the distance. The Milky Way arched majestically across the cosmos, magnificent and immense, breathtakingly beautiful, tranquil, and mysterious. For immense rivers of stars formed from innumerable celestial bodies resembled four diamond-studded currents radiating an endless brilliance as they spiraled toward the center of the Milky Way. There they formed a circular ring of diamond-like starlight, within which endless stars converged, laying out constellations, turning moons, casting suns, and scattering light, all together blooming with a resplendent multicolored glow. Within that circular river of crystalline stars, a colossal galactic dragon surged upward. Each of its scales was the size of a planet, and its twin eyes were two red supergiant stars shining 40,000 times brighter than the sun, blazing with scarlet radiance. Innumerable suns, moons, and stars flowed from its body like spray, its presence overwhelming, awe-inspiring, and earth-shaking. Its entire form glimmered with silver light and dappled moonshine like a mighty galaxy swimming through the starry river. The galactic dragon's entire body coursed with suns and moons, stars rolling and light surging as it rose and plunged within the starry river, lifting waves of celestial bodies and splashing up surging tides of the Milky Way. Oh! The galactic dragon opened its massive jaws and let out a dragon's roar. Stars flew, moons were flung, suns were struck, and light surged, the entire Milky Way trembling with its cry as it spat out 7 dragon pearls, each bearing one of the 7 primordial powers of the universe. In a bustling modern city, there was a street exuding an ancient aura. Old residences a century or two in age lined both sides, appearing ill-suited amidst the surrounding skyscrapers, old yet mysterious. In this era of rapid development, many dilapidated old streets had long since been demolished and rebuilt into high-rises. Yet this particular street had remained unchanged, not because the government sought to preserve a relic, but because strange phenomena had occurred here. According to eyewitnesses, this street had once been torn down, yet overnight the demolished houses rose back up from the ground, fully restored to their original state. Each dwelling stood neatly in a row, perfectly intact, not a brick or tile disturbed, without even the slightest trace of damage. After that, the authorities no longer dared to demolish this street, and so it remained as it was. Zhenchang was walking along this street, tossing 5 1-yuan coins in his hand, so they clinked softly as he muttered, "Only 5 yuan left. How am I supposed to get through this week?" 2 years earlier, the uncle who had raised Zhenchang and served as a criminal police officer had been killed in the line of duty while pursuing criminals. Since then, Zhenchang had relied on the meager pension from his uncle's unit to attend university and cover his living expenses, while also saving up to prepare for job hunting after graduation. Each month he calculated every cent with painstaking care, yet still found himself stretched thin, forced at the end of every month to confront the same troubling question. By accident, 1 coin slipped through his fingers and dropped, rolling forward with a clattering sound. "Oh, my 1 yuan. Don't run." Zhenchang ran after it, shouting loudly as he chased, while passers-by along the street turned their heads to look at him. The 1 yuan coin ignored him completely, bouncing and skipping as it rolled onward. It struck a small stone, sprang up sharply, and then rolled into a nearby hole. "Damn!" Zhenchang lunged forward, dropping to the ground and thrusting his right hand into the hole to retrieve that 1 yuan on which his survival for the coming month depended. He stretched his arm as far as it would go, groping about inside the hole. Suddenly his fingers brushed against something round and plump with a faintly icy chill to the touch. What is this? Hooking the round object with his fingers, he drew it into his hand. Instantly his entire palm was flooded with a piercing crystalline chill. When he brought it out and looked, he saw a palm-sized yellow crystal sphere, clear and translucent, with a golden 5-point star inside, it emitting a faint golden glow. A crystal ball. Who threw this in here? Zhenchang stared in surprise at the yellow sphere, then placed the crystal bead in his left hand and once more extended his right hand into the hole to search for his 1 yuan. He groped around inside, yet no matter how he searched, he could not find it. Lowering his head to peer into the hole, he muttered, "I clearly saw it roll into this hole. How did it disappear? If I'd known, I would have run faster." As soon as the words left his mouth, the scene around him suddenly began to spin. The pedestrians on the street, the cars on the road, the buildings nearby, even the airplanes in the sky, and the drifting white clouds all whirled at high speed, merging into indistinct dashed lines. Then with a jolt, everything stopped. The lines vanished, and the surroundings became crystal clear. Zhenchang found himself once more walking along the street, tossing 5 1-yuan coins in his hand, so they clinked softly as he muttered, "Only 5 yuan left. How am I supposed to get through this week?" Once again, a moment's carelessness sent that coin slipping through his fingers, clattering forward as it rolled. "Oh, my 1 yuan. Don't run." Zhen Chang shouted loudly as he chased after it, and the passers-by along the street again turned to look at him. The 1 yuan coin once more ignored him, bouncing gleefully as it rolled ahead, striking that same small stone, springing up, and then rolling into the same hole by the roadside. "Damn." Zhen Chang lunged forward again, dropping to the ground and thrusting his right hand into the hole to retrieve that 1 yuan. He stretched his arm out as far as possible, groping about inside. What is going on? Zhen Chang suddenly snapped to awareness, startled. He realized with a jolt that he had already chased after this coin once. Why was he doing it again? He glanced at his left hand. The yellow crystal sphere was still there, the golden 5-point star within it glowing faintly. An illusion. Zhen Chang shook his head, forcing himself to calm down, then continued groping inside the hole with his right hand in search of that 1 yuan. He felt around and around, yet still came up empty-handed. Lowering his head to peer into the hole once more, he said, "I clearly saw it roll into this hole just now. How did it disappear? If I'd known, I would have run faster." As soon as his voice fell, the scene around him again spun rapidly. The pedestrians on the road, the cars, the airplanes overhead, the drifting clouds. Everything once more whirled into a blur of dashed lines, then abruptly halted. The surroundings cleared, and there was Zhen Chang once again on the street, tossing 5 1 yuan coins in his hand, so they clinked softly. "Only 5 yuan left. How am I supposed to get through this week?" Zhen Chang repeated the words. Once more, through a moment's carelessness, that same 1 yuan coin slipped from his fingers, bouncing and clattering forward as it rolled away. "Oh, my 1 yuan. He arrived at the university cafeteria where his 4 dorm roommates were already waiting for him. Seeing him walk over, they called out, "Zhen Chang, hurry up, we're only short of your 2 yuan. Zhen Chang walked over and said, "Something held me up on the way." He then took out 2 yuan, and together the 4 of them pooled 10 yuan, bought 2 dishes and 5 bowls of rice, and gathered around one table to share the meal. At the end of every month, the 5 of them lived like this. None of them minded in the least. They chatted and laughed as they ate, exchanging gaming experiences. Many people in college had probably lived this way at some point. "My dragon girl scored 2 pentakills today. I slaughtered them so badly they didn't even dare step out of their base." Qian Tailong declared with bold pride, his face full of smug satisfaction. Because his own name contained the character Long, he had a particular fondness for the dragon girl. "What, planning to marry dragon girl as your wife someday?" Zhang Kai said with a laugh. "Even if she could turn into a real person, I still wouldn't be able to marry her. I can only play with her in the computer," Qian Tailong replied. Qian Tailong picked up a strand of green vegetable and shoveled 2 mouthfuls of white rice into his mouth. "Aunt!" Suddenly a girl's shrill scream sounded from behind them. The few of them turned around and saw a warm-tempered-looking girl doused from head to toe in soup, vegetable leaves, and glass noodles, clinging to her neat, demure clothes. A male classmate carrying 2 bowls of soup had apparently collided with her. Her long, lustrous black hair cascaded over her shoulders like a waterfall. She wore a set of tidy, demure dress, her demeanor gentle and serene, her simple attire elegant. Every gesture revealed cultivated manners, yet at a glance one could tell she was a girl raised under strict family discipline. Yet now on her snowy, delicate face, her pair of autumn water eyes shimmered with dark light, filled with panic. I'm so sorry, I'll pay for your clothes, I'll pay for your clothes." The male classmate holding the soup apologized again and again. "Forget it, you didn't do it on purpose," the girl said, her voice clear and graceful, pleasing to the ear. She turned to walk outside, wanting to return to the dormitory to change into clean clothes. Zhen Chang was particularly shocked. This yellow crystal ball actually had the ability to reverse time by 1 minute. This power, long existing in the realm of scientific fantasy, was now happening right before his eyes in his own hands. Zhen Chang looked at the yellow crystal ball in his hand, realizing that everything could be replayed from 1 minute ago. He walked to the window, watching the classmates strolling in the schoolyard, and said, "Time reversal." Suddenly, the entire schoolyard began to spin rapidly, forming a blurred line that obscured vision. This was time reversal. Time was starting to flow back. Zhen Chang thought, filled with excitement. The spinning blur suddenly stopped, and the campus became bright again. The classmates who had just walked past reappeared in their previous places, retracing their steps. Zhen Chang felt a wave of joy and excitement. "Zhen Chang, are you going to self-study today, or to the library?" Wang Qi rushed into the dormitory to ask. "Oh, I'm going to the library," Zhen Chang responded after realizing. "Then I'm going to study in the classroom. There are only 2 months left until the graduation exam, and I'm failing 4 subjects. These 2 months determine my 3 years of university," Wang Qi said as he hurriedly grabbed his bag and ran out. After Wang Qi left, Jinchang also took his bag and headed to the school library to look for materials. In order to earn good money in the future, Jinchang chose to study finance. However, he soon realized that a finance degree does not directly lead to making money. He had saved for 3 years with the meager compensation from his uncle's workplace to attend university. After graduation, the compensation would cease, so he must find a job immediately after graduation or he wouldn't even have money for food. Now only 2 months remained until the graduation exam. After finding a finance book on the shelf, Jinchang sat down at a table in the library, immersing himself in preparation for the upcoming exam. Gradually it got later, and one by one the students in the library left. At that moment, the librarian's voice rang out. It's 10 o'clock, the library will be closing. You 2 students can come back tomorrow. Jinchang looked up and found that in the large library only 2 people remained, him and a female classmate. He turned to look at the female classmate and was taken aback. It was the girl he had met in the cafeteria, elegantly sitting at a table. The girl, hearing the librarian's voice, also looked up. Their gazes met, both surprised, and then she blushed, offering him a gentle smile. Since it had come to this, Jinchang nodded and smiled back, standing up and saying, the library is closing. Ooh, it's time to go. Okay, the girl replied in a light voice, standing gracefully from the table, her long hair cascading down her shoulders, exuding elegance. Then almost subconsciously she caught up with Jinchang, and they walked out of the library together. The night was silent as water, the wind calm in the trees, and a modest yet bright moonlight illuminated the path, casting a layer of silver on the ground. The 2 walked silently through the campus. A gentle breeze stirred the girl's elegant skirt, which swayed delicately. She slightly lowered her head, her hands resting in front of her. Her hair, as dark as night, shimmered in the moonlight, cascading down her shoulders. Her star-like eyes flowed with infinite tenderness, serenity, depth, and silence as she walked beside Jinchang without a word. The fragrance of the girl surrounded him, and feeling the beauty of the girl beside him, Jinchang felt flustered and anxious, unsure of what to say. Thank you, the girl suddenly said, her voice sweet and shy as she blushed again. Oh, you're welcome, Jinchang responded, still lost in his nervousness, realizing she was referring to what happened in the cafeteria. They continued walking in silence when the girl asked, what's your name? Oh, my name is Jinchang, and you? Jinchang replied. My name is Yi, you can call me Xiao, the girl said. Yi, that's a beautiful name, Jinchang remarked, pronouncing her name. Upon hearing this, Yi's face broke into a pearly smile, her thick eyelashes shimmering in the moonlight, crystal clear and dreamlike. How old are you? Jinchang asked, looking at her. 18, in my first year of university. How about you? Yi smiled and asked. I'm 20, in my 3rd year, about to graduate. Jinchang replied with a smile. Are the courses in your 3rd year difficult? Yi asked. For me, every year is difficult, Jinchang said. Yi laughed, her eyes shimmering like the moonlight and stars. She then asked, what major are you studying? Finance, and you? Jinchang inquired. I'm studying business administration. My dad wants me to be the CEO of his company after graduation. Yi answered. Really? Can I work at your company after I graduate? Jinchang asked immediately, as he was worried about finding a job after graduation. Sure, I want you to be the general manager then, Yi said with a smile. Oh. Jinchang's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly replied, no, I just want to be an employee who can earn a salary. I can't be a general manager. Jinchang initially thought he just wanted to have a meal after graduation, but unexpectedly a casual remark led to the possibility of being a general manager. My dad says that the CEO decides company matters, and the CEO lets the general manager decide, and the general manager lets the deputy general manager decide. Each department manager then decides, and finally the employees take action. So at that time you just need to let the deputy general manager decide, he explained with a smile, imparting company management experience. That's how the company management works, Jinchang said, puzzled. Yes, being a general manager is easy while being an employee is the most exhausting. The overall planning, operation, and management of the company are done by the employees. The senior management actually doesn't do much, which is why my dad wants me to be the CEO, not an employee, he explained. Jinchang listened, feeling overwhelmed. Why did you initially choose to study finance? Yi asked. I thought studying finance would be lucrative, but it turns out that it's just about understanding economic operations and has no direct connection to making money, Jinchang replied. He laughed again. Unbeknownst to them, they had walked into a quiet forest path when suddenly 4 people emerged from all sides, surrounding them. Hand over the money and don't make a sound, a man said viciously, pulling out a knife and pressing it against Jinchang's back. Jinchang, what's wrong? Yi asked in panic, looking at the 4 men. Are you robbing me? I only have 3 yuan left. If I give it to you, what will I eat this week? Jinchang said to them, unbothered by the knife, thinking a knife was nothing compared to 3 yuan. What about her? The man asked, pointing the knife at Yi. I have money, I'll give it to you. Yi, seeing the knife, turned pale and hurriedly took her bag, pulling out 4,000 yuan to hand to the leader of the robbers. As expected of a rich family's daughter, she casually had 4,000 yuan in her bag, causing Jin Chong to stare in disbelief. The leader of the robbers reached out to take the money, but at that moment Jin Chong suddenly grabbed the money and put it back in Yi's bag, saying, don't give it to them. Even if you have money, don't give it to them. Yet he couldn't help but feel greedy looking at the 4,000 yuan. You want to die? The leader of the robbers shouted angrily and lunged at Jin Chong with the knife. Jin Chong sidestepped, evading the stab, while using the momentum to deliver an uppercut that struck the leader's jaw, causing blood to spray. The leader spat out a mouthful of blood, his body suspended in the air before crashing to the ground, blood gushing from his mouth. Get him. Finish him off and run with the money. The leader of the robbers yelled, blood flowing from his mouth. The second robber immediately took out a knife and lunged at Jin Chong. Having learned some grappling and combat techniques from his uncle, a police officer, Jin Chong swiftly grabbed the robber's hands, twisting and breaking his wrist with a crack. The robber let out a scream, clutching his wrist and retreating in fear. But at that moment, the third robber stabbed a knife into Jin Chong's back. Yi screamed in terror. Jin Chong felt a sharp pain and blood gushing out. Oh no, I didn't notice the one behind me. Jin Chong gritted his teeth, thinking that if he could do it again, he would definitely avoid that knife. As he thought of this, the surroundings began to spin rapidly, forming a blur. Time was reversing. Jin Chong's heart trembled as he looked around. Time started to flow back again. As the spinning blur continued, Jin Chong's wound on his back quickly healed and restored until it was completely intact, without even a scar. The blur suddenly stopped, bringing time back to before. The pain in Jin Chong's body vanished instantly, and he was both astonished and intrigued. He touched his back and found that after the time reversal, the wound had indeed disappeared, without even a hint of pain. Since time reversal could return everything to 1 minute ago, his body also returned to its state from 1 minute ago. At that time, the robber had not yet stabbed him, so the wound did not exist. Jin Chong suddenly realized this with great joy. It turned out that the ability to reverse time by 1 minute had such an effect. Get him. Finish him off and run with the money, the leader of the robbers commanded. The second robber lunged at Jin Chong with a knife again. Seeing the robber come at him, which was exactly the same as before, Jin Chong immediately employed his grappling technique, grabbing the robber's hands, twisting and breaking his wrist with a crack. The robber screamed, clutching his wrist and retreating in fear. At this moment, the third robber lunged at Jin Chong's back with a knife. After the time reversal, all the robbers' actions were identical to before. Everything would unfold again along the same trajectory as it had previously. Since time had reversed to before the incident occurred, the memories of others had all vanished and reverted, leaving only Jin Chong with his memories intact. Therefore, Jin Chong clearly understood the attacks of the robbers. He turned his body to dodge the knife from the third robber, and with the momentum of his turn, he delivered a powerful punch to the third robber's jaw. The third robber immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and lost a few teeth, his body suspended in the air before crashing to the ground and rolling a few times unconscious. This is payback for the stab you gave me earlier, Jin Chong said. Just then, the fourth robber suddenly pulled out a knife and stabbed it into Yi's chest, blood gushing out instantly. Oh! Yi cried out in pain, clutching her chest as blood streamed down, gradually collapsing to the ground. Yi! Jin Chong was horrified, his heart racing with fear. He never expected the robbers would harm Yi. He rushed over and held her tightly. Yi looked up at Jin Chong, her eyes filled with endless longing and regret. This was her first date with a boy, but unexpectedly her life ended at this moment. The two exited the school gate and got into a taxi, riding for over an hour until they arrived at a villa area. After turning a few corners, they reached the front of a villa. The villa was luxurious and majestic, with a garden in the front and a swimming pool in the back, costing at least tens of millions. Jin Chong couldn't help but marvel, having never seen such a house in his life. Upon entering, a sense of opulence enveloped him. Golden domes, jeweled lamps, jade stairs, and silver walls, all resplendent and magnificent, adorned with golden and silver flowers. The floor covered in colorful clouds, spacious and bright, rich and grand. Jin Chong was dazzled, secretly amazed. "Dad, Mom, I'm back," Yi shouted as she stepped inside. A middle-aged woman's voice responded first. A gentle and dignified woman stepped out, looking to be in her 50s, and smiled lovingly as she saw Yi rushing in. "Mom," Yi ran up to her. "I'm back," Yi's mother said kindly. "Mom, I brought him back, take a look." Yi turned to Jin Chong. "Oh," Yi's mother nodded at Jin Chong. Seeing her gaze, Jin Chong's spirits lifted, and he didn't know where to look, finally saying, "Hello, Auntie." Young man, please sit, have some snacks and drinks. Xiao Yi's dad isn't back yet. You two sit a while. I'll go call the chef to prepare more dishes, Yi's mother said as she walked into a nearby room. Here, Xinchang, Yi said, pulling out a pile of snacks and drinks from the fridge and pantry and placing them in front of Xinchang. Your home is truly luxurious. I've never seen anything like it, Xinchang exclaimed. Hee, it's all arranged by my dad, Yi replied with a smile. As Yi turned around, she accidentally bumped into a vase, which fell to the ground with a crash. Aunt, Yi screamed. You child? Yi's mother came out of the kitchen frowning as she said, when your dad comes back, he will definitely scold you. That was his collection of blue and white porcelain antiques. Hurry up and clean it up. After saying that, she walked away. It's over if my dad asks, I'm going to get scolded. Yi stuck out her tongue and hurriedly bent down to pick up the shards. Xinchang couldn't help but smile at Yi's flustered appearance. You're still laughing when my dad asks, just say it was you. My dad usually doesn't blame guests, all right. Please help me, Yi pleaded. No need, Xinchang laughed. If you won't help, then I'll just get scolded. Anyway, I've been scolded plenty as a kid for breaking things. I mean, you don't need to worry, Xinchang said, thinking time flows back. The room scene rapidly changed, reverting to an earlier time. Yi turned around and accidentally knocked over the vase, which fell from the table. Ah, she screamed. Xinchang rushed forward and caught the vase. That was close. Yi patted her chest, still shaken, and said, That's an antique my dad collected. If it breaks, I'll be scolded again. I broke many of my dad's antiques when I was young. Yi mischievously smiled, took the vase from Xinchang, and placed it back on the table. When I was little, I saw my dad always fiddling with his ceramic collection, and I wanted to touch them too. I accidentally dropped one and broke it, and then I cried. My dad ran over and said I didn't cry when you broke my antique, and you are crying. Yi sat at the table, propping her chin with her hands, laughing happily. Your dad is truly impressive. I would never have that ability my whole life. When my dad interviews you, make sure to answer well, Yi said with a smile, her face flushed. Okay, I'll review first, Xinchang replied. Xinchang said, taking out various financial books from his bag and focusing intently on reading. Yi saw him studying finance and couldn't help but burst out laughing. I'll look over more now. If your dad asks me something, I'll know how to answer. I only scored 56 in the last exam. The interview is more important than the exam. If I don't know, it will be troublesome, Xinchang said, buried in his books. Yes, you read it, Yi said, stifling her laughter. Xinchang rolled his eyes back as he memorized while Yi covered her mouth, laughing incessantly. After more than an hour, the sky gradually darkened. Suddenly, the door clicked open and a man in his 60s wearing glasses and a serious expression walked in, dressed in a suit that exuded authority. Dad's back, Yi immediately exclaimed joyfully and ran up to him. Xinchang's heart raced, and he hurriedly stood up. You're back too. The man was Yi's father. I came back a while ago, and I brought him back with me, Yi said, pointing at Xinchang. Yi's father glanced at Xinchang and nodded, then turned to the people behind him and said, Everyone please come in. 3 men entered behind him. 2 had serious expressions like Yi's father, while the other wore a cowboy hat and had a strange look. Dad, who are they? Yi asked curiously. This is Uncle Gao, and that's Uncle Dong, Yi's father said. Uncle Gao, Uncle Dong, Yi greeted. Your daughter is quite polite, Uncle Gao said with a smile. Please everyone have a seat, Yi's father gestured to the table. Bring the tea, Yi's father added. Xinchang immediately packed all his books into his bag and stood aside. I'm back. At that moment, Yi's mother came out of a room. Yi's father walked over and whispered a few words to Yi's mother. She nodded and then walked over to Yi, saying, Your dad has important matters to discuss with the guests. You and your friend should go to your room first. Okay. Yi sensed the atmosphere was off and nodded, leading Xinchang into her room upstairs. Yi's room was simple, neat, and orderly, with a piano and violin by the window, a bookshelf, and an easel against the wall, a wardrobe filled with various clothes, a shoe cabinet filled with various shoes, and another cabinet filled with various dolls, teddy bears, and bunny plush toys. Who are they and what do they do? Xinchang asked. 2 are joint directors of my dad's company. The third one I don't know. I've never seen him before, Yi replied. So the 2 opened the door a crack and listened outside. They heard voices arguing downstairs. If you hadn't raised the price against the other party, they wouldn't have bought that land for more than double the price. Uncle Gao said, I didn't raise the price on purpose. If they hadn't bought it, I would have, Yi's father replied. Although that's true, they are unhappy, so they want you to return the extra money they paid. Uncle Dong said, You can't say it like that. I wasn't the only one who set the bid. I only bid against you 3 times, Yi's father countered. At that time, we had already defeated everyone. A piece of land worth 400 million was bid up to 800 million, and then you raised the bid again. You increased the price from 800 million to 6 billion in just 3 bids, and then you withdrew. Isn't that clearly against us? Who should bear this 800 million? The man in the cowboy hat with a strange expression lounged back in his chair, twirling a playing card while speaking in a sinister low voice. I'm not against you. I also want that land to build a factory. After my daughter graduates from university, I plan to hand the factory over to her to manage, E's father said. E gasped, covering her mouth in surprise, realizing her dad bought the land to build a factory for her. Your daughter? Yes, your daughter is quite good. Choose one, money or your daughter. If you want the money, you'll have no daughter. If you want your daughter, you'll have no money. The man in the cowboy hat said, his tone chillingly indifferent as he continued to play with the cards. The sinister tone left a feeling of dread in the air. P.S. Please recommend. Please collect. What? What do you mean, mister? He exclaimed, rising abruptly from his seat. The man in the round hat continued to observe Mr. E with a nonchalant expression. If I were to return the money to you, wouldn't I be risking everything? Mr. E retorted angrily. Then we shall not interfere. This was initiated by you. If you do not contest, we will not purchase that land at double the original price. The man responded, still fiddling with the playing cards in his hands. Do not go too far. I am not someone to be easily bullied. Mr. E shouted in anger. We are not to be easily bullied either. With a wave of his hand, a playing card shot through the air like a blade, pinning itself to the table with a deep thud. Mr. E gasped, his face turning pale as he looked at the playing card embedded in the table. Jinxiang was taken aback, closely examining the playing card. It was merely an ordinary card, yet he managed to pin it to the table, indicating something extraordinary. The man in the round hat smiled enigmatically and said, if you feel dissatisfied, I can accommodate you. In South Asia, I possess over 2 billion in assets and am known as the Serpent King of South Asia, addicted to gambling. We can have a game. If you win, I will take nothing. 800 million is merely a night's wager for me. Consider it a gift to you. I do not know how to gamble, Mr. E's previously serious and solemn face now showed a hint of panic due to his connection with EE. We do not need gambling skills. We will rely purely on luck. The Serpent King of South Asia said, sweeping his hand across the table, arranging a set of playing cards in neat order, then looking at Mr. E and saying, pick one. No, Mr. E replied. You gamblers know every card. I cannot possibly win against you. If you doubt me, then use your own cards. The Serpent King finished his words, sweeping the entire deck of cards into his hand, without leaving a single one behind, then set it aside in one smooth motion, not dragging his feet at all. Mr. E hesitated. Use your own cards. Now you can rest assured. The Serpent King looked at Mr. E with a blank expression. The more expressionless he was, the more expression he conveyed, much like a lamb awaiting slaughter. Yes, we want. Look at the cards. Neither you nor I. Well, gamble blindly like this. This is truly a game of chance. Do you dare? Jinxiang said. Upon hearing this, the Snake King slowly leaned back, his eyes suddenly gleaming with a sharp light as he gazed at Jinxiang. A murderous aura emanated from his serpentine eyes. He has been skilled in gambling since childhood. With just a touch of the cards, he could instantly switch any card, moving as eerily as a snake. Thus, he earned the title of South Asia's Snake King. His card-switching techniques were impossible to detect, even by high-speed cameras. In the entire world, there was only one person who could counter him. None other could rival his skills. However, if he couldn't touch the cards, he would have no means to play, as he could not switch cards from a distance. You claim to be the South Asia Snake King, yet do you lack the courage for this? Playing cards is about boldness. Without guts, how could one play? Jinxiang laughed, looking completely at ease. Due to the time reversal, everything returned to the way it was before, and everyone's memories completely vanished. E's father nodded internally, praising Xinqiang's bravery. To gamble blindly without looking at or touching the cards is a method that only a truly bold person could conceive. Ha! The Snake King laughed heartily, saying, Good, I have never played like this in my life. I bet 800 million. Are you in? Jinxiang said. I'm in. The Snake King squeezed out a word through his teeth, his snake-like eyes fixated on Jinxiang. Aunt, please bring a spatula from the kitchen, Jinxiang said to E's mother. E's mother was taken aback, not understanding. Seeing E's father gesture for her to go get it, she entered the kitchen and retrieved a spatula. Jinxiang said to Director Gao, You can use the spatula to flip the cards so neither of us will touch them. Director Gao replied, then used the spatula to flip over a card in front of Jinxiang. It was a 3. Then he flipped over a card in front of the Snake King. It was a 7. E's father, E's mother, the directors, and the people around them held their breaths, watching Director Gao use the spatula to flip the cards one by one. Director Gao continued to flip over a card in front of Xinxiang. It was a king. Then he flipped over a card in front of the Snake King. It was an ace. Next he flipped over another card in front of Xinxiang, which was again a king. Then he flipped over another card in front of the Snake King, which was again an ace. Now there was a pair of aces against a pair of kings. With a loud bang, a bullet shot out, striking Xinxiang, causing blood to splatter. Xinxiang remained unfazed, thinking to himself, time rewinds. The hall spun around, time reverting to before the bullet struck Xinxiang. The Serpent King raised his gun again, aiming at Xinxiang. Remembering the time and direction of the gunfire, Xinxiang sidestepped to evade the bullet and charged towards the Serpent King, intent on taking him down. Seeing Xinxiang rushing towards him, the Serpent King involuntarily took a step back, suddenly pointing the gun at is saying to Xinxiang, "Since I can't kill you, I'll kill her." Xinxiang trembled all over and halted in his tracks. There was still nearly 10 meters between him and if the Serpent King shot her, he would be unable to save her. With a gunshot, the Serpent King pulled the trigger and a bullet flew forth, striking screamed in agony, blood splattering everywhere as her eyes looked at Xinxiang, with both longing and pain, blood flowing profusely from her body. Xinxiang shouted, his eyes wide open. "I love to see such expressions," the Serpent King said with a cold smile. Time rewinds. Xinxiang thought urgently. The hall spun again, time reverting to before the incident, and Xinxiang knew the Serpent King was about to shoot so he rushed towards her. But with a 10-meter distance, no matter how fast he was, he could not outrun a bullet. Just as he took 2 steps, the Serpent King aimed at and fired the bullet, shooting out. Blood sprayed again as was struck by a bullet, blood gushing from her body as she looked at Xinxiang with a mixture of longing and pain. Xinxiang's heart twisted in anguish. "I love to see such expressions," the Serpent King sneered. "I said I would make you wish you were dead." Time rewinds, Xinxiang thought urgently. The hall spun once more, returning to before the incident. Xinxiang could rewind time, repeatedly going back to save but time would still unfold along the same trajectory, and the Serpent King raised his gun again, aiming at Time rewinds. Time rewinds. Time rewinds. As soon as the Serpent King fired, Xinxiang would immediately use time rewind, repeatedly returning to the moment before the Serpent King shot, saving each time. Due to Xinxiang's incessant use of time rewind, normal time could not progress. The entire Earth was stuck in this moment. Pedestrians on the streets repeatedly taking the same steps, waves splashing the same foam, leaves falling repeatedly from trees, and dust moving along the same trajectory. From the perspective of the solar system, Earth appeared to be halted in its orbit, like a jammed gear, moving slightly forward only to immediately snap back, unable to rotate or revolve. Under this continuous cycle of motion and recoil, chaos began to appear in the time and space surrounding Earth, with gravity becoming anomalous, and the sky displaying traces of chaotic time and space, densely packed and layered. Gradually, the entire Earth fell into darkness, winds swirling and clouds gathering, fierce gales howling, forests roaring, the ground shaking, oceans raging, raising towering waves. Due to time being stuck, various phenomena emerged on Earth. But no matter how many times Xinxiang used time rewind, time would replay the previous trajectory, and the Serpent King would repeatedly shoot at At the top of the Wembley Hotel, with a bang, the Serpent King shot at again. Time rewinds. Xinxiang was unaware of the anomalies occurring in the world. Due to his use of time rewind, he continued to use it, bringing time back to save Although he could keep returning to the past to revive watching her getting hit by bullets time and again looking at him with pained longing, Xinxiang felt anxious and tormented, his heart like a knife. What to do? How can he stop the Serpent King from shooting and save Time returned to just before the Serpent King shot at The Serpent King once again aimed his gun at and with a bang fired a shot. Flames erupted from the muzzle as a bullet broke free, flying towards The bullet flew towards in an instant, already in front of her, and it looked like it would strike her once again. Xinxiang had already used time rewind over 100 times and still could not prevent the Serpent King from firing. Watching the bullet heading towards Xinxiang felt an overwhelming urgency, using all his strength to focus all his thoughts and spirit on that bullet. In that moment, he suddenly felt a surge of power and extraordinary and magical force. Suddenly, a miraculous phenomenon occurred. The bullet flying towards he began to slow down, inching towards her. What? Xinxiang was astonished. Looking closely at the bullet, he could see it clearly as it slowly rotated in the air, inching closer to Xinxiang, stunned and unable to think further, shouted, "Ah!" and charged towards He suddenly moved with a speed several times that of a normal person, rushing towards her with a shadow of his former self. The bullet was now right in front of E, extremely close, but moving incredibly slowly, so slowly that the grooves on the bullet could be seen clearly. Opt. Zhenchang dashed forward, raised his hand, and slapped the bullet away with a loud smack, redirecting it to the wall. Zhenchang stood in front of E, panting heavily, his face filled with astonishment. What had just happened was so quick that he himself did not understand it. After slapping away the high-speed bullet, his hand also felt a fiery pain. Zhenchang. Yi looked astonished at the Zhenchang before her. She saw the Serpent King shooting at her, and then Zhenchang suddenly appeared with several running shadows in front of her, slapping the bullet away. Unaware that Zhenchang had saved her over 100 times. The Serpent King, seeing Zhenchang suddenly appear with a row of shadows in front of Yi faster than the bullet, was taken aback and filled with fear as he looked at Zhenchang. Who exactly is he? The Serpent King shivered in his heart, stepping back 2 paces. Seeing Zhenchang blocking Yi, he felt unwilling and angry, raising his gun to fire several shots at Zhenchang. As Zhenchang watched several bullets flying towards him, he recalled the scene of the bullet flying slowly through the air, but was unsure how it had happened. As the bullets approached, a girl's voice suddenly spoke to Zhenchang. You still have the ability to slow time, make time slow down. Time slows down. Zhenchang was taken aback, having no time to think further. He shouted loudly, time slows down. Suddenly the entire world's time slowed down, and in an instant there was complete silence, all sounds vanishing without a trace, like ice and snow melting. Zhenchang was astonished, looking around to see everything moving slowly and silently. Every speck of dust in the air was floating slowly. The dust floating in the air, which could not be touched, could now be caught with a hand. The world was in utter silence, with all time slowed down. Everything moved slowly along with time. The dust in the air floated slowly. Pedestrians on the street moved slowly. Car wheels rolled slowly on the road. Planes flew slowly in the sky. Birds flapped their wings slowly. Waves splashed gently. Winds blew softly. Rain fell slowly from the sky, and leaves swayed gradually. Everything in the world moved slowly. Even the flames that burned were now swaying slowly, as if in slow motion. The several bullets flying towards Zhenchang had reached him, appearing to be about to hit him, suddenly slowing down, inching towards him in the air. Zhenchang was immensely surprised, particularly shocked. Time slows down. It turned out that time could not only rewind, but also slow down, no matter the object under time slowing. Its speed became exceptionally slow. This is the power of time slowing. The bullets had already reached in front of him. He suddenly reacted, swinging his hand to slap away the bullets, sending them flying off. His palms burned with pain. Zhenchang suddenly realized that while all objects experienced slowed time, his own speed remained unchanged, identical to normal speed. Meanwhile, the Serpent King stood there slowly pulling the trigger, flames slowly erupting from the muzzle, the dull sound of gunfire echoing as a bullet slowly emerged from the gun, inching forward. Zhenchang charged at the Serpent King. His speed had become extraordinarily fast, 5 times, even 10 times faster than normal. A row of running shadows appeared around him, instantly appearing before the Serpent King. This speed was not generated by his body, but was a manifestation under the state of slowed time. He could use normal speed while in the state of time slowing, forming a different calculation model for time and speed. For instance, if he could run 10 meters in 1 second at normal speed, now he slowed 1 second to 5 seconds while still maintaining normal speed, allowing him to cover 50 meters in 5 seconds. However, from the perspective of normal time, it was still just 1 second, meaning he ran 50 meters in 1 second. Thus, in the state of time, slowing, his speed appeared to multiply. Therefore, time slowing increased a person's speed inversely. The more time slowed, the more his speed increased. From the perspective of normal time, Zhenchang dashed forward with a shadow of movement, instantly reaching the Serpent King, who was utterly astonished and terrified, never expecting Zhenchang to be able to slap away multiple bullets and suddenly appear before him. Zhenchang reached the Serpent King, swung his fist, and struck. His punch was as swift as lightning, fierce as thunder, and the Serpent King had no means of evasion. Due to using normal speed in the state of time, slowing, the speed and power of Zhenchang's punch also formed a different calculation. For example, under normal conditions, Zhenchang could throw 2 punches in 1 second, each punch taking 0.5 seconds, but after time slowed, 1 second extended to. Within 5 seconds, one can exert 10 punches at true strength, yet in normal time it still amounts to just 1 second. Therefore, that means 10 punches are delivered in a second, translating to each punch taking 0.1 seconds, are effectively increasing the speed 5-fold. The force of a punch delivered by a person is the product of their strength and punch speed. Typically, a person's punch speed can double their strength, meaning that a force of 50 pounds can generate an attack power of 100 pounds. With time slowing down, the punch speed of Jinchang has increased fivefold, thus multiplying the attack power of his punches by 5. Under the effect of slowed time, both speed and attack power are exponentially increased, and this augmentation does not stem from cultivated strength, but rather from a different form of enhancement brought about by the deceleration of time. The more time is slowed, the greater the increase in speed and attack power. In this state, there is no need for cultivation. Even a child can deliver a punch strong enough to kill an adult. This represents a power concept that transcends mere strength and speed, emphasizing how time enhances power. Time reversal can be considered a defensive ability. Conversely, time slowing down is an offensive capability. Consequently, Jinchang can amplify his strength by manipulating time, and in a state of slowed time, his punch speed becomes extraordinarily swift, increasing his power several times over. Moreover, under the effect of slowed time, the movement speed of the Snake King has drastically slowed down, making it impossible to evade the power-amplified punches of Jinchang. Jinchang moved with the swiftness of lightning and the ferocity of thunder, landing a punch on the Snake King's jaw. Blood spurted from the Snake King's mouth as he was sent flying, crashing 10 meters away, rolling several times on the ground before lying still. Filled with rage, Jinchang stared at the Snake King, who lay motionless on the ground. At the same time, he was astonished to see his own fists feeling no increase in his strength. It remained the same as before. Yet how could the power of his punch have increased several times? The last time he fought those 4 thugs, he couldn't even send someone flying 10 meters with a single punch. Yi was also dumbfounded, staring in astonishment at Jinchang. Suddenly, several shadowy figures dashed towards the Snake King, delivering a punch that sent him flying. Meanwhile, the sunglasses killer was equally stunned by this scene. Seeing the Snake King fall, he raised his gun and fired several shots at Yi, following the order to eliminate her. Several bullets were fired, heading straight for Yi. Time slows down, Jinchang shouted. Instantly, the bullets aimed at Yi slowed down midair, flying toward her at a reduced pace. Jinchang dashed towards Yi, accompanied by a shadowy figure racing ahead of her. His feet never stopped moving as he extended both hands, smack, 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 knocking away the incoming bullets before reaching the sunglasses killer, delivering a punch. The fist, amplified in speed and power, struck the sunglasses killer's jaw with a thunderous impact. Blood erupted from his mouth, and he spun several times in the air before being sent crashing into the wall with a resounding thud, falling to the ground motionless and breathless. At that moment, the fallen Snake King rose from the ground, witnessing Jinchang punch the sunglasses killer away. He pulled out a grenade from his body, removed the pin, and threw it towards Yi. Jinchang had just punched the sunglasses killer away when he turned back to see the Snake King throwing a grenade at Yi. He was instantly alarmed. The grenade was already hovering in front of Yi, about to land. If it landed, Yi would surely be blown to pieces. Jinchang's face turned pale in terror as he shouted, "Time slows down," and charged towards the grenade. The grenade slowly fell towards Yi's feet. Jinchang bolted forward, leaping into the air to pounce on the grenade. Just as it touched the ground, boom! A deafening explosion erupted with a burst of flames. Simultaneously, Jinchang lunged forward, pressing the grenade beneath him. Boom! A thunderous roar shook the entire room as the grenade exploded violently beneath Jinchang, splattering blood everywhere and staining the ground red. Jinchang! Yi cried in horror, her face pale. Jinchang lay under the explosive grenade, motionless at her feet, blood pooling around him. Jinchang! Jinchang! Yi shouted desperately at the bloodied Jinchang, tears streaming down her face. Jinchang remained still, the grenade having shattered his chest, abdomen, heart, and lungs, leaving him breathless. Jinchang! Jinchang! Yi sobbed uncontrollably. Ha 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 ha. At that moment, the Snake King approached with a triumphant laugh, stepping closer to the mangled body of Jinchang. "I win in the end, I win. I will show you that even in death you cannot save her." The Snake King circled Jinchang's body with a meaningful demeanor, gazing at him on the ground. "So how should I make you realize this?" Then he feigned sudden realization, saying, "Oh, I have thought of a way to kill her, so you can meet in the underworld. Then you will know that even in death you cannot save her. What a splendid idea, right? Ha ha ha." The Snake King laughed loudly, raising his gun at Yi, who was tied to a pillar, tears streaming down her face. With a bang, he pulled the trigger, and a bullet shot forth towards Yi. Jinchang had been killed by the grenade. If Yi were shot again, there would be no one to save her. Just as the bullet was about to hit Yi, Suddenly, a white shadow rushed in, smacking the bullet away and landing on the ground. What? The Snake King exclaimed, realizing it was a white dove. The white dove had blocked the bullet without a scratch, not even losing a feather. It suddenly flipped in midair, flapping its wings and shooting upwards like a cannonball towards the Snake King. Bang! The dove collided with the Snake King's chest. He let out a scream as his chest shattered, blood spraying out, sending him flying backward to the ground, motionless, struck dead by the dove. The dove flapped its wings and flew behind the pillar, pecking at the ropes that bound Yi. Zhenchang. As the ropes fell away, Yi leaped onto Zhenchang, tears streaming down her face as she wept. Uncertain how much time passed, the police finally arrived. Yi knelt on the ground, covering her face with her hands, overwhelmed with grief and unable to stop crying. Yi. Yi's parents rushed over, seeing her kneeling on the ground in agony. They embraced her tightly. Dad, Mom, Zhenchang is dead. Yi sobbed, glancing around only to find Zhenchang's body had mysteriously vanished without a trace. Zhenchang. Yi stood in panic, searching around, but there was no sign of Zhenchang. Where is this? After an unknown period, Zhenchang opened his eyes to find himself in a hemispherical white room, lying on a white bed. The room was filled with various modern instruments, including CT scanners, TCDs, MRI machines, industrial frequency X-ray machines, and type ultrasound diagnostic devices, along with many other devices that seemed impossible for this era, resembling extraterrestrial technology, scattered throughout the room. Two white, sleek, futuristic nurse robots were busy at various machines. This is the base I just built. A 12-year-old girl with rosy lips and white teeth, sporting two long ponytails and wearing a palace-style dress, approached with her hands behind her back, revealing a charming smile. Her round little face was innocent and pure, utterly adorable. Am I dead? Zhenchang asked. You could say that, the girl replied, stepping around the bed with a playful demeanor. You are dead, but you could also say you are not dead. In the eyes of others you are dead, but I have brought you back to life, the girl said with a proud smile, taking a few steps back with the same playful demeanor. You brought me back to life. Zhenchang was astonished, considering he had leaped onto a grenade, having his chest and internal organs blown to bits, yet she could still revive him. Zhenchang sat up and was astonished to find that his shattered chest and abdomen had completely healed, as good as new, with not a single scar remaining. He was taken aback and asked, Who are you? My name is Niao Air Dragon, Awakening Niao Air, and I possess the power of the 4-star Dragon Ball. The girl introduced herself, her voice as clear and melodious as silver bells. 4-star Dragon Ball? Zhenchang questioned. Yes, the 4-star Dragon Ball. You have the power of the 1-star Dragon Ball. It is because you possess the strength of the Dragon Ball that your life was preserved. Even after being blown up, your brain did not die, allowing me to save you, Niao Air explained. 1-star Dragon Ball. What is that? Zhenchang asked, intrigued. It is that yellow crystal ball with a golden star inside. That is the 1-star Dragon Ball, which possesses time abilities and can also be called the Time Dragon Ball, Niao Air elaborated. Time Dragon Ball? Zhenchang exclaimed in astonishment. Zhenchang was taken aback, recalling the 1-star crystal ball. With a thought, the mysterious power he had previously possessed surged forth. The yellow transparent crystal ball appeared in his hand, glowing with a golden pentagram. It dawned on him that the ability to reverse time and slow time stemmed from this crystal ball's power. I am the 4-star Dragon Ball, possessing the ability to alter the atomic and molecular structures of non-living matter, also known as the Atomic Dragon Ball, Niao Air stated. Alter atomic and molecular structures? Zhenchang queried. Except for living cells, I can change the atomic and molecular structures of any material, transforming it into another substance. After you were blown up, I used the Shao Bai to bring you to my base. Through cell regeneration technology, I cultivated your life cells in a life fluid, allowing the tissues and organs that were obliterated by the explosion to regrow, thus reviving you. It took me 26 days to complete the regeneration of your bodily tissues and organs due to the extensive damage, Niao Air explained, grinning adorably. Zhenchang listened in increasing astonishment, the ability to regrow his obliterated bodily tissues and organs, reviving him from death, demonstrated an astounding level of scientific technology. He got out of bed, examining his hands and body, realizing he was identical to before with not a single reduction in strength. P.S. Please recommend. Save this. Zhenchang did not look back, knowing that the girl was Yi. His heart raced violently as he controlled himself not to look at her. As long as he did not look, there would be no connection. Yi walked forward with an elegant and dignified demeanor. As long as she passed by, everything would be over, Zhenchang thought repeatedly. On the other side, a slightly plump classmate was focused on carrying 2 bowls of soup and walking this way. His eyes were fixed on the soup, so he did not see EE and bumped right into her. "Aunt!" EE exclaimed in surprise, instantly drenched in soup with vegetable leaves and noodles clinging to her elegant and fragrant clothes. EE's gentle and delicate face turned completely red. The classmate holding the soup was flustered and kept apologizing. "It's over. Everything is over," Jinchong thought as he exerted all his strength to stand up and walk outside, forcing himself to remain calm despite his weak body, trying to avoid raising any suspicions. I'm sorry. I will pay for your clothes, I will compensate you for your clothes," the boy with the soup kept apologizing. "It's fine, you didn't do it on purpose," replied. Said, turning to walk outside, wanting to return to her dorm to change into a new outfit. At that moment, Jinchong was in front, and followed behind as they exited the cafeteria. Looked at Jinchong, who walked ahead like a stranger. The two walked out of the cafeteria heading in opposite directions. She did not notice the pain etched on his face due to the severe injuries he suffered. Tens of thousands of biological nuclear energies were destroying Jinchong's body. He did not raise his head, enduring the pain and using all his strength to leave the school, calling for a taxi to rush out of the city. Arriving in the suburbs, Jinchong got out of the car, dashed down the hillside, and rushed into the woods. Behind him, the taxi driver shouted, "You haven't paid yet." Jinchong ran desperately through the forest, feeling his heart twitch intermittently, knowing it was due to the intense exercise placing a burden on his heart. He had to reach the mountain before his heart stopped to wait for the bird to arrive. Jinchong felt his body becoming increasingly painful, his strength fading rapidly. He used all his might to reach the mountain, but at that moment he exhausted all his energy, his vision darkened, and he collapsed onto the ground. Once again, the sky showed signs of temporal chaos, and this time it was far more severe than before. A girl around 11 or 12 years old, wearing a court dress and modern glasses, stood on top of a small airplane floating at the mountain peak, gazing at the sky. "I will build a base here in the middle of this mountain and then look for Dragon Ball power users. I wonder what star level they are." The girl said, her voice incredibly sweet and charming as she piloted the small airplane through the mountains. "Oh, there seems to be someone over there." The girl suddenly spotted Jinchong, who had collapsed in the mountains. She landed the plane beside him and helped him up, astonished. "Dragon Ball, you are indeed a Dragon Ball power user." Then her glasses shot out X-rays and infrared scans of Jinchong's entire body. Her small face revealed another expression of surprise as she said, "How has your bodily structure been damaged by biological nuclear energy?" She then extended her hands and swept them toward a small hill. Instantly, the dirt and stones on the hill transformed rapidly, rising into a half-spherical reinforced structure, and metal plates emerged, turning the small hill into a white, enclosed half-spherical steel room. The girl picked up Jinchong and carried him into the room. She lifted her hand, and a white treatment bed rose from the ground. She placed Jinchong on the treatment bed, then raised her hands again. Various futuristic instruments emerged from the ground, filling the room, along with two sleek, white modern nurse robots that began to conduct examinations and treatments on Jinchong. "Your body has suffered severe damage due to the sudden biological nuclear energy attack affecting all your organs. We must allow your bodily tissues to regenerate." The girl, who was indeed the bird, spoke while controlling the devices. The treatment bed gradually transformed into a transparent glass tank, and life-giving liquid surged in, instantly enveloping Jinchong in transparency, leaving only a faint outline of his body. Moments later, the damaged bodily tissues and the veins and organs began to regenerate, flesh and blood slowly reappearing. After 2 days and nights, Jinchong's damaged tissues, organs, and cells fully regenerated, but he still lay with his eyes tightly shut, unconscious. "Why are you here, and how do you possess the power of biological nuclear energy within you?" The bird sat beside the treatment bed, resting her chin on her hands, looking curiously at Jinchong, who lay unconscious. Time had flowed backward, causing all her memories to vanish, returning her to a month prior. Another day passed, and Jinchong awoke. He opened his eyes to see a pure, innocent, and adorable girl standing by the bed. It was the bird. He said, "Bird, it was really you who saved me." How do you know my name?" the bird asked, puzzled. Jinchong smiled and replied, "We've met before. I am a 1-star Dragon Ball power user able to wield time abilities. Last time you activated the molecular cells within me, causing my body to generate biological nuclear energy, producing millions of dBp, allowing time to flow back a month, and then I found you here, and you saved me." "Time flowed back a month?" the bird exclaimed in surprise. "Why would you want to reverse time by a month? You told me that in the future we would encounter 7 anti-Dragon Ball powers. If my power was even a fraction less than theirs, I would instantly disintegrate into particles. Therefore, I needed to ensure that one person did not encounter me. Jinchang explained. Not encounter you? The bird questioned curiously. Jinchang chuckled, recounting the previous encounter with the bird. After listening, the bird understood everything. Controlling time down to the microsecond is too far-fetched. Right now, you need to at least have the ability to turn back time by 10 minutes and slow down time by 10 seconds, increasing your power tenfold. All right, I will undergo intense training, Jinchang said. Another day passed, and he fully recovered. The bird waved her hand, and all the treatment devices in the room gradually transformed into various futuristic training equipment. Jinchang began his intense training in the room. During mealtime, the bird picked up a stone and transformed it into an electric rice cooker. She then went outside, pulled up a handful of grass, and picked some leaves to put into the rice cooker. After pressing the button, the rice cooker emitted red and yellow lights along with sizzling sounds, and soon after the aroma of grass and leaves filled the air. After a while, the bird opened the lid to reveal a ball of crispy, yellow-green bread. She broke it in half and handed it to Jinchang, saying, "Eat this." Jinchang looked surprised and asked while holding it, "Can I really eat this?" "Of course it won't kill you," the bird replied, taking a bite of the bread made from grass and leaves. Jinchang took a bite and was instantly engulfed in a delightful aroma. It was crispy and delicious, and he could not help but praise, "It's tasty, really tasty. How did you make this?" This rice cooker automatically disinfects, sterilizes, decomposes organic material, synthesizes fats, and then transforms them into nutrients that the human body can absorb, the bird explained, taking another bite. As Jinchang ate the bread, he watched the bird with amazement. She seemed to be capable of anything and everything. In the evening, the current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually. Jinchang and Niao Air flew over a city in South Asia to search for the third Dragon Ball wielder. Below them, towering buildings crowded the landscape with bustling crowds and heavy traffic. Jinchang asked, "How do we find him?" Niao Air replied, "As long as he uses the Dragon Ball's abilities, the magnetic field here will be affected. Therefore, we just need to measure the changes in the magnetic field." "Will there also be traces of time and space confusion?" Jinchang inquired. "No, time-space confusion traces only appear when you use time rewind. The power of this Dragon Ball should be different from yours." Niao Air suggested, "Let's find a place to set up a temporary base and wait for the magnetic field response." Jinchang followed Niao Air as they piloted a small plane to the mountains outside the city. Niao Air extended both hands, and the surrounding stones and soil began to change. In no time, a spacious hemispherical white room appeared. The two entered the hemispherical room, and Niao Air raised his hands again, causing various futuristic training devices and a large screen to emerge from the floor, which displayed global geography and magnetic field flow maps. While Jinchang underwent intense training in the base, he continued to practice the combat techniques of the beautiful assassin. A few days later, Niao Air suddenly shouted, "It has appeared, he is in this city." The two hurriedly piloted their small plane invisibly over the city. Those who possess a Dragon Ball have special abilities, and special abilities will surely lead to some unusual occurrences. Just like how your time rewind creates traces of time and space confusion, we should inquire around the city. As long as we find out where something unusual has happened, we can locate that Dragon Ball wielder. Niao Air stated. "All right," Jinchang replied. The two descended invisibly from the plane to a corner of a building, revealing themselves and changing their combat suits to local attire. Niao Air waved his hand, and the two small planes rapidly shrank down to the size of toys fitting into their belts. "This plane can shrink as well," Jinchang exclaimed in astonishment. "I compressed the space inside the plane, allowing the whole structure to shrink," Niao Air said, picking up a stone that transformed into a money printing machine. Soon a large stack of banknotes was printed out, each worth 10,000, totaling over 100,000, which he handed to Jinchang. Jinchang was dumbfounded, saying, "You can even print money. I wish I had known this. I wouldn't have had to scrimp and save for 3 years in college. I can also turn stones into gold and diamonds to sell, but that's too troublesome. It's easier to print money directly," Niao Air replied. Jinchang held the money and whispered, "Will this be discovered as counterfeit?" Niao Air explained, "I have thoroughly researched the currency here over the past few days. As long as the currency serial number is not verified, it is impossible to detect." "So verifying the serial number would reveal it's fake?" Jinchang asked. Niao Air responded, "If I use a new serial number, the bank will discover that those numbers do not exist, hence it would be considered fake. If I use existing serial numbers, then if two bills share the same number, it would definitely be identified as counterfeit. So as long as no one checks the serial numbers, it won't be discovered." The two emerged from the corner and entered an alley where they saw several ragged children rummaging through garbage bins for food. "How can they eat this?" Niao Air frowned, and then used the money printing machine to print a stack of 100 yuan notes, handing them to the children. The children immediately cheered and ran off joyfully to buy food. The two searched throughout the city for the Dragon Ball energy until nightfall. Despite scouring the entire city, they still did not find the Dragon Ball wielder. They did, however, see countless ragged children scavenging for food in the garbage, numbering in the tens of thousands. Seeing this, Niao Air printed stacks of money to give to the children, who were ecstatic with their newfound wealth. "Why are there so many orphans digging through the trash here?" Jinchong asked. "Let's ask someone," Niao Air suggested. Jinchong and Niao Air entered a bar that was bustling with noise, brightly lit with colorful lights, where various people were laughing and drinking. A man with white short hair and a square face, wearing a white tank top, sat at the bar with a drink beside him. He had broad shoulders and a strong build. He extended his fingers, and a flying knife spun between them. As he turned his head and saw Jinchong and Niao Air entering the bar, he sized them up quickly and suddenly twisted his fingers, flicking his wrist. Whoosh! The flying knife shot towards Jinchong with a flash of light. The flying knife was swift, racing faster than a bullet. Thud! It embedded itself into the wooden board beside Jinchong's ear. Just as he entered, he felt a sharp wind rush past his ear, momentarily stunned as he looked at the flying knife, thinking how dangerous it was. The square-faced man approached with a carefree expression and said, "Hello, I am Fei Ma Gu. May I ask if you need bodyguards or assassins? I can protect you, or I can help you kill someone." Jinchong glanced at him, noting his broad shoulders and height, and replied, "No, thank you." He then sat down at a table with Niao Air. The man, unperturbed, boldly sat down with them, leaning back in his chair and casually placing his legs on the table, saying, "Everyone has enemies. Just tell me who you don't like, and I'll help you eliminate them." He then leaned forward towards Jinchong and Niao Air with a smile, adding, "Or someone could hire me to kill you." Jinchong looked at him, surprised by his audacity. The waiter approached and asked, "What would you like to order?" "2 glasses of red wine, please, low alcohol content," Jinchong said, handing over a 10,000 yuan note. Fei Ma Gu's eyes lit up at the sight of the 10,000 yuan note, and with a wave of his hand, he said, "Add 1 glass of high alcohol content." He then smiled at Jinchong, unabashed. Jinchong looked at him and asked, "Are you very familiar with this place?" "Of course I know this city like the back of my hand," Fei Ma Gu replied proudly. "Why are there so many orphans in this city? Doesn't anyone take care of them?" Jinchong inquired. Let me tell you directly, don't be scared. This is a city of crime. All sorts of evil exist here. If you're afraid, you should leave quickly," Fei Ma Gu said solemnly as the waiter brought over 3 glasses of red wine. He took a sip of the high-alcohol wine and leaned back in his chair, looking meaningfully at Jinchong. Jinchong and Niao Air exchanged glances and said, "Go on, we're listening." "Do you know who governs this city?" Fei Ma Gu asked. "The city should be managed by the mayor," Jinchong responded. The mayor is just a figurehead sent by the government. The true ruler of this city is the Lu Wang. The mayor must treat her with utmost respect and follow her commands." Fei Ma Gu said with a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Lu Wang?" Jinchong asked in surprise. "Yes, Lu Wang is the true ruler of this city. That's why the city is called Lu Wang City. She reigns supreme here, controlling everything from taxes and public security to factories, businesses, and both the underworld and the legitimate world. Everything in this city is at her command." This chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually. In the following 2 days, Jinchong continued to search for the 3rd Dragon Pearl ability user in the city alongside the bird, yet he remained empty-handed. On the 3rd day, the two flew invisibly to Tianwang City in a small plane, discovering a towering skyscraper that reached 100 stories more luxurious and magnificent than the 60-story Lu Wang Hotel. It was none other than the Brolosian Tianwang Hotel. The Brolosian Tianwang Hotel was resplendent and magnificent, a beacon of wealth and splendor soaring high at the very center of Tianwang City, offering sweeping views from all directions. Surrounding the hotel were 2,000 bodyguards with 1,000 assassins hidden in the shadows, creating an impenetrable barrier around the building. A chilling atmosphere of hostility enveloped the hotel as black Rolls-Royces, Bugattis, and Lamborghinis slowly entered, from which 7 distinctly dressed individuals emerged, followed closely by elite assassins ranked within the top 100 as they entered through the hotel's main doors. Jinchong and the bird, clad in combat suits, piloted their small aircraft, invisibly hovering in the distance, observing everything within the hotel through their glasses. The 7 kings took several elevators to the 100th floor of the hotel. In a spacious hall, a series of steps formed a semicircular arrangement with 8 luxurious thrones resembling royal seats, where the 7 kings took their respective places. In the center sat the Tianwang, flanked on either side by the Long Wang, Gui Wang, Wu Wang, Lu Wang, Kae Wang, and Go Wang. These 7 individuals wielded supreme power in the South Asia region, commanding influence and authority ruling over this territory with their private armies, tanks, and aircraft, while governments dared not confront them directly. At the sides of the 7 kings stood 100 elite assassins, while 200 subordinates of the 8 kings surrounded the lower area. The hall was permeated with an air of solemnity and intimidation. How did the Snake King die? The deep voice resonated throughout the hall as the Tianwang Brolotian seated in the center spoke first. In his 60s, he exuded an authoritative presence, his gaze profound and intimidating, commanding respect without anger. He was the strongest among the 8 kings, having single-handedly established the financial prowess of the entire organization, holding an unparalleled position within the 8 kings. A heavy and dreadful atmosphere immediately enveloped the hall. Under his commanding presence, the crowd fell silent, not a sound to be heard. He went to the Central Plains to expand his influence, seizing 800 million in assets from the Yi family through cunning means. That very night, he was bombed to death in the hotel, leaving no trace behind. At this moment, a figure stepped forward to the round table. Zhen Chang recognized him as another assassin, a subordinate of the Snake King, wearing sunglasses. It turned out that he had also survived a month after time flowed back. Who is this Yi family to dare murder the Snake King? This grudge must be avenged. The Wu Wang interjected, a man in his 50s with features as hard as rock, his brows furrowed in anger, radiating ferocity. He slammed his fist onto the heavy table beside him, producing a thunderous sound as a chunk was shattered from it, showcasing his formidable strength. Once there was a boxing king in South Asia who was invincible in the ring, winning 3 boxing championship belts. However, after provoking the Wu Wang, he was killed with a single punch, illustrating the Wu Wang's formidable prowess. Anyone who provokes the 8 kings must be eliminated without mercy. The Yi family indeed has the audacity to kill the Snake King. This vengeance must be taken, or no one will regard the 8 kings with respect. The Gui Wang spoke from another side, who will avenge the Snake King, killing the entire Yi family, burning down their homes and destroying their enterprises. Whoever does so shall become the new Snake King, managing the Snake King's 2 billion assets. The Gui Wang was short, his bald head dark and thin, his appearance grotesque like a demon. He presided over all assassinations within the 8 kings, training all assassins and eliminating all enemies of the 8 kings. Throughout his life, he killed countless individuals. Once, when the president of South Asia ordered the eradication of the 8 kings, he stealthily infiltrated the president's chamber at midnight, killing over 100 of the president's guards and placing a blade at the president's throat, demanding the rescindment of the order. Since then, no president dared to issue such an order against the 8 kings. His knife techniques were eerie and sinister, unpredictable, and his speed was the fastest and most lethal among the 8 kings. With his stature being ranked 3rd among the 8 kings, even surpassing the Wu Wang, he governed a city of millions in South Asia, making it apparent how terrifying the Gui Wang truly was. The current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually. The bird said, "Your power is still too weak. I will make you a gauntlet gun that can withstand tank shells and also attack, giving you enough time to use time reversal." A robot walked up to a white box, opened it, and took out a piece of milky white metal, handing it to the bird. The bird stretched out its hand and changed the shape of the metal plate into 2 gauntlet shells, each with 3 small gun barrels, which were then fitted onto Xinqiang's left and right wrists and the back of his hands. "This is an alloy I created by fusing carbon nitride molecules, iridium atoms, titanium atoms, chromium atoms, and tungsten steel, along with energy-absorbing steel and Arctic steel, called ultra diamond alloy. Its hardness reaches 17, making it the hardest material in the world, twice as hard as diamond. The alloy is divided into 3 layers. The top layer contains energy-absorbing steel, which has electromagnetic atoms that can absorb incoming energy. If the energy is too powerful, the middle layer contains Arctic steel, which has freezing atoms that can quickly cool down intense energy. If the energy is extremely strong, the bottom layer can isolate the penetrating energy from the energy-absorbing steel and Arctic steel. Therefore, this gauntlet can withstand all close-range explosions. Even if a tank shell hits the hand, it cannot be destroyed. As long as a nuclear weapon does not explode nearby, it can also withstand the high-pressure thermal shockwave produced." The bird said, "That's amazing," exclaimed Fianluo. "If this could be made into armor to wear, it would be invincible in the world. These types of atoms are very difficult to fuse. The more closely packed the atomic structure is, the higher the density, making it harder to control. The fusion consumes more DBP, and the electromagnetic atoms in energy-absorbing steel and the freezing atoms in Arctic steel are very difficult to manufacture. This is even harder than fusing atoms requiring more DBP. I have been making and fusing these atoms since I was 9 years old, and it took 5 years to create this small piece, just enough to make 2 gauntlets. The bird said. Xinxiang looked at the gauntlet shells on the back of his hands and felt a cool sensation. As he opened his hand, the gauntlet shells immediately extended forward and to both sides, covering his fingers and palm with sheets of milky white metal tightly wrapping around his hands like gloves. The 3 gun barrels on top can fire 3 rocket bullets controlled by the index finger, said the bird. Is that so? Xinxiang made a motion of pulling the trigger with his index finger. Whoosh! A rocket bullet was fired, and with a loud bang, a large hole was blasted in the spherical room. Fortunately, the 3 were wearing combat suits which withstood the force of the explosion, preventing any harm. That's great, Xinxiang exclaimed, excitedly clenching his fist. This way I can fight, and also fire rocket bullets. Moreover, the hardness of the gauntlet can withstand cannonballs. Even if I am hit by a cannonball, I will still have enough time to use time reversal. Are you crazy? Firing rocket bullets in the room. Luckily, I didn't install neutron bullets for you. The bird's round face turned red, filled with anger. I'm sorry, Xinxiang hurriedly said. The bird stretched out its hand to gradually repair the hole that was blown out. I didn't expect them to deploy 10 armored tanks and 5 planes to attack us. Although I defeated them by 1 trillion, they didn't give me a single cent. Are they afraid I will go back and demand the buildings? Fianluo said, while carrying a milky white streamlined sniper rifle. I killed the Snake King. They must be here to take revenge on me. I didn't expect they would come with so many tanks and planes for revenge. Xinxiang said, I accessed their system through the internet and found out they are involved in arms dealing, drug trafficking, and trading women. Xinxiang glanced at Maya Na, who hesitated, still defending the 7 kings, and said, I told you long ago, even all 7 of them combined stand no chance against Bird. Just now Fan Luo obliterated the 10 armored tanks and 5 fighter jets the 7 kings sent to kill us. Ha ha ha. Destroying such things is child's play for me now. I barely even feel a thrill. Fan Luo laughed heartily, shaking his milky white nuclear sniper rifle. Maya Na gazed at Xinxiang Bird and Fan Luo, then said, I was an orphan from infancy. Tian Sheng took me in, Gui Wang taught me martial arts and forged me into a professional assassin. Long Wang never trained me, but when I failed a mission and Gui Wang sought to execute me, Long Wang intervened and saved my life. Yu Wang, K Wang, and Gu Wang treated me like elder sisters. I cannot bring myself to kill them. Bird pressed a button on the side of his glasses, and a holographic image projected onto the wall, a photograph of a man, a woman, and a young girl. Using facial reconstruction algorithms calibrated for early childhood, he said, I cross-referenced your features with archived records and found this girl. Tell me, are these your parents? Maya Na stared at the photo on the wall, the man, the woman, and the little girl, and her expression sharpened. A deep instinctive familiarity stirred within her mind. That's me as a toddler. My parents vanished when I was 2 or 3. I don't remember if they're truly mine. I infiltrated their secure systems and decrypted classified files, Bird continued. They murdered infants' parents, seized the children, and abandoned them in cities to fend for themselves, using survival as a brutal selection criterion. Only those who lived to age 6 were recruited, trained as assassins, and soldiers bound to serve them without question. The tens of thousands of garbage scavenging orphans now roaming this city, all victims of that same atrocity. Their parents slaughtered, their bodies dumped among refuse, left to endure or die, so the 7 kings could harvest the strongest for their war machine. You too were chosen that way. This is the total number of abducted children over decades. 80% perished before reaching 6. Bird gestured and the wall erupted with dense cascading profiles. Over 1 million faces of children, each entry stark and unblinking. Maya Na recoiled in shock, stumbling backward. Then her own dossier appeared, enlarged to fill the entire wall. Beneath parents, the single chilling line glowed, deceased. A jolt of horror struck Maya Na. Her whole body trembled violently. Bird said, they killed your parents, took you, and cast you into this city to survive on rotting scraps. When you reached 6, they reclaimed you, to mold you into a killer bound to obey them until your last breath. It was unbearable to imagine a toddler of 2 or 3 legs still unsteady, trudging barefoot through mounds of waste, searching for scraps while the world turned away. Tears streamed down Maya Na's face. She covered her eyes with one hand, shoulders trembling in silent, shuddering sobs. After a long silence, she wiped her tears. Her black eyes, cleansed by sorrow, gleamed with startling clarity. Lifting her head, she spoke. Yu Wang told me recently that their 5 fighter jets, 10 tanks, and armored vehicles had all been destroyed, and that they must relocate immediately. He urged me to prepare at once. At this moment, Mo Yina took a stack of documents from the control room and said, according to this document, there is still a carrier in the depths of the Indian Ocean. The king must have run to the carrier. A carrier, that's great. I want to attack the carrier right now. Fa Yin Luo exclaimed, holding his nuclear sniper rifle. They still have a carrier. How much money do they have after all? Zhen Chong touched his chest where the healed bones were, feeling that his skeleton seemed even harder than before after being healed by the bird. There is also a submarine over there. We can take this submarine to find their carrier. The bird said as it piloted the small aircraft Xiao Bai to another submarine. The Xiao Bai suddenly disassembled into metallic fragments covering the submarine's hatch. Then the submarine's top hatch opened suddenly, and the countless metallic fragments reassembled back into Xiao Bai flying into the submarine. Zhen Chong took Mo Yina inside while Fa Yin Luo entered with Lu Wang Li Baichia closing the hatch behind them. The bird controlled the submarine from the console with the pigeon standing on the console. Let's set off, the bird said, pressing a button. The submarine suddenly powered up and slowly sank into the sea, swimming out of the submarine base and heading towards the deep sea. The Dragon King's hard Qigong is surprisingly powerful. I can't even move him with bird's super diamond alloy gloves, Zhen Chong said, clenching his fist as he looked at the gloves. It's you who are weak, not the equipment, the bird replied. No matter how strong the hard Qigong is, I can finish it with one shot, Fa Yin Luo said. He just knocked away 3 of your bullets, Zhen Chong pointed out. Fa Yin Luo laughed heartily and said, I can shoot 10 shots in a second. How many can he knock away? Bird helped me search for hard Qigong information online. Ooh, I want to practice hard Qigong too, Zhen Chong said. You are really foolish. Who would upload the secrets of hard Qigong that makes the body as hard as steel online? These are unique skills that are not meant to be shared. Fa Yin Luo exhaled on the sniper rifle and wiped it clean. Mine is made of nanomaterials. It doesn't get dirty, and the more you breathe on it, the dirtier it gets. The bird saw Fa Yin Luo exhaling on the sniper rifle and said, I am doing this so that my breath can give the sniper my essence, allowing for a mental connection, making it easier to use. Fa Yin Luo chuckled. Mental connection. The bird said, I can connect the sniper to your brain's nerves with a wire, allowing you to control the sniper directly with your mind, which is stronger than a mental connection. Opt. Fa Yin Luo exclaimed in surprise, quickly waving his hands. No ID, rather shoot with my hands. Zhen Chong said, bird, you can activate my cellular molecules to release power. That would increase my strength, right? The bird replied, then you probably won't survive 2 days. Your cells will exhaust their power and die. Die in 2 days. Zhen Chong exclaimed in shock, what method can give me power like the Dragon King? I've trained intensively for a month and only increased 1 dBp. If only I had the secrets of the Dragon King's hard Qigong. Gaining dozens of pounds of strength in a month is already quite fast. You should be grateful, the bird said. I know. Suddenly Lu Wang Li Baichia, who had been silent in sorrow, spoke up. Do you know the secrets of hard Qigong? Zhen Chong asked in surprise. Those secrets are their treasures. They must have taken them with them while fleeing, so they should be on the aircraft carrier, Lu Wang Li Baichia said. That's great. Zhen Chong, after defeating the king, you'll have the hard Qigong secrets, Fa Yin Luo said, standing up with his gun. But hard Qigong is not the most powerful martial art, Lu Wang Li Baichia said. The others were surprised and looked at her. The Dragon King once told me that while hard Qigong is powerful and incredibly strong, it lacks flexibility. It's just standing there to be hit and is not the most powerful martial art. Lu Wang Li Baichia said. Is there a martial art more powerful than hard Qigong? Zhen Chong asked in astonishment. Yes, he once told me that the most powerful martial art in the world is internal strength. Lu Wang Li Baichia said. Internal strength, isn't that a fictional concept from novels? Zhen Chong said, as this type of martial arts novel is well known across the country, becoming a common knowledge among all ages, yet no one has truly practiced it because the secrets of practicing internal strength simply do not exist. The Dragon King's hard Qigong is famous nationwide. Scientists have studied it and acknowledge that there is scientific reasoning behind it, while the king practices internal strength. I once saw the king shatter the Dragon King's hard Qigong with a single palm strike. Lu Wang Li Baichia said. Oh. Everyone was astonished. Those are 2 completely different types of power. Internal strength completely overwhelms hard Qigong. In front of internal strength, hard Qigong is just a crude form of trickery, and the training speed of internal strength far exceeds that of hard Qigong. After 50 years, the Dragon King's hard Qigong only reached the 4th level, while the king's internal strength reached the 5th level, far surpassing the Dragon King. Lu Wang Li Baichia said. Zhen Chong, the bird said, the king is handed over to you. You will go up and defeat him while we watch, giving you a chance to train. Fa Yinluo said. Zhenchang was speechless. The Dragon King almost killed him with one punch, while the king shattered the Dragon King with one palm. What distance is there between himself and the king? He asked what kind of power is internal strength that can shatter hard qigong with a single palm. To practice internal strength, a force will grow within the body. This force is neither physical strength nor qi, but a kind of mystical power called internal power, which is generated within the human body. Scientists have studied the king's internal power, but have been unable to determine what kind of power it is. I have also practiced it before. Lu Wang Li Baiqia said. You have practiced it too. Everyone was surprised. The king once taught me. He just taught me to apply internal power to the piano, and it can only be unleashed through the piano. Lu Wang said. Then can I apply internal power to the gun? Fa Yinluo asked. Your internal power might be strong, but it's merely pulling the trigger. What special effect does using internal power to pull the trigger have? The bird said. Fa Yinluo thought for a moment and said that makes sense. Zhenchang was astonished to learn that human strength also has its levels of superiority and inferiority. Hard qigong is practiced by brutish men, those who simply extend their heads and say, "Come hit me here." Internal strength, on the other hand, is the application of a mysterious and subtle power within the human body. Zhenchang pondered, feeling a surge of longing, and said, but the secrets of practicing internal strength simply do not exist in reality. The current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually. Oh no! The group exclaimed, watching as the nuclear missile soared into the sky. I will destroy it. Fa Yinluo declared, piloting a small plane upward, charging towards the missile. The battle suit he's wearing cannot withstand a nuclear explosion. If he destroys the missile, the explosion will kill him instantly. The bird watched as Fa Yinluo pursued the nuclear missile in the sky. As Fa Yinluo became a mirrored, chasing the missile, it felt as if time was flowing backward. The scene of the aircraft carrier and the ocean swiftly transformed, reverting to an earlier time. When I was young, I survived by scavenging food from garbage heaps, which forged my strength and resilience, allowing me to create everything I have now. The king said. Zhenchang said to the bird, and Fa Yinluo, I have already used time reversal. He has a nuclear missile button. Oh, it will launch the missile. Fa Yinluo, as soon as he takes out the button, you must shatter it immediately, and do not let him press it. The others looked astonished. The bird was also taken aback. You used time reversal? I didn't feel anything. Fa Yinluo said. Only Zhenchang has the memory of time reversal. We all do not know, the bird replied. At that moment, the king suddenly pulled out the nuclear button, saying, this is the nuclear missile launcher. As soon as I press it. He did not finish his sentence. Bang! Fa Yinluo raised his gun and shot, instantly shattering the nuclear button in the king's hand. The king's expression changed. He never expected that as soon as he revealed the nuclear button, Fa Yinluo would shoot it to pieces. The king said there are two buttons. One is the launch button and the other is the detonation button. After finishing his words, the king took out the detonation button and pressed it directly. What? Zhenchang's face changed drastically. The king actually pressed the nuclear button without a care for his own safety aboard the aircraft carrier. Boom! A massive burst of white light suddenly erupted, generating a high-pressure shockwave that violently surged outward, instantly enveloping the entire ocean. The thousands of people on the aircraft carrier were instantly engulfed by the massive light, their bodies shattered in the high-pressure shockwave of white light, dissipating like ice and snow. In the midst of the blinding white light, Zhenchang saw his and everyone else's bodies disintegrating, his heart filled with terror. His brain turned to fragments, his consciousness rapidly fading. In the last flicker of awareness, he desperately thought time reversal. Then his entire being dissolved into nothingness, completely vanishing. The immense power of the nuclear explosion instantly reduced the aircraft carrier to dust, creating a gigantic void in the ocean as a 1,000-meter-high tsunami surged forth, crashing like a mountain in all directions. The tremendous force of the nuclear explosion obliterated the entire aircraft carrier, leaving nothing that could be salvaged. Suddenly, the towering tsunami that surged outward came to a halt. The surroundings rapidly swirled and transformed. The surging waves suddenly receded. A massive white light swiftly converged from all directions, and the shattered aircraft carrier reappeared on the ocean, the enormous cracks rapidly sealing up, restoring it to its previous state before Fa Yinluo's destruction. Everyone aboard the aircraft carrier stood once again on the carrier. The king said, when I was young, I survived by scavenging food from garbage heaps, which forged my strength and resilience, allowing me to create everything I have now. The three individuals piloted a nuclear-powered aircraft soaring through the skies at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour, arriving in West Asia. Below them lay a desolate expanse of yellowed earth stretching endlessly into the horizon. Fan Luo utilized a three-dimensional structural image to survey the surroundings, pointing ahead as he said, "There is a city over there." As the three flew over the city, looking down, they beheld a scene of total devastation. The entire city lay in ruins with collapsed buildings and fragmented walls, a wasteland devoid of any intact structures. As far as the eye could see, a panorama of despair extending endlessly. Jinchang gazed at the vast ruined city in astonishment, exclaiming, "How could such a large city be reduced to this?" The bird, using its glasses to scan the ruins below, remarked, "This city was destroyed by countless shells." "How many shells?" Jinchang inquired. "It would take at least 1,000,000 shells to completely obliterate a city," the bird replied. 1,000,000 shells. Fan Luo displayed a look of shock. Even the rockets on the Tianwang aircraft carrier do not amount to 1,000,000. The three continued to fly forward in the sky, witnessing city ruins emerging on the ground, each city in a state of utter disrepair, littered with debris. "How could all these cities be destroyed like this?" Jinchang questioned. "All of this was caused by over 1,000,000 shells. In West Asia, there are no large-scale weapons of mass destruction. Shells are the most common and powerful weapons available," the bird explained. "This place is extremely wealthy. Beneath the ground at depths of 1,000 meters lie oil, gold mines, coal, natural gas, fossils, and various rare metals." Fan Luo scanned the area with the three-dimensional structural image, clearly observing the resources buried hundreds of meters deep, and then pointed to a spot below, saying, "There lies a fossil of a saber-toothed tiger." Then, pointing to another location, he said, "There is a cave that conceals a trove of treasure." Fan Luo surveyed the surroundings, remarking, "Treasures are abundant here. No wonder they are so wealthy, using 1,000,000 shells to destroy a city." "Are you saying the fourth Dragon Ball energy user is here?" Jinchang looked down at the war-ravaged desolation. "Yes, based on the fluctuations in the magnetic field, it should be in this area," the bird stated. Fan Luo pointed to another area, saying, "There is a field of skeletons with over 100,000 bones and many swords. That must have been a battlefield. One individual is holding a golden knife which has remained rust-free even after being buried for hundreds of years. It must be a treasured blade, and that person was likely the leader," Fan Luo said, then dove straight down. "What are you doing?" the bird communicated through the glasses. "My current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually." "That's great, uncle. We're not bad people. Why are you all hiding in the cellar?" Jinchang stepped forward and asked. "My name is Samyuta. Just now the city sounded the alarm saying that the Dark Snake Organization has come again, so we all hid." The man replied, "Dark Snake Organization." Jinchang recalled that the ones who captured Angelina were also from the Dark Snake Organization. "You can come in, but it's too dangerous outside," the middle-aged man Samyuta said. The three followed him down to the cellar, where dozens of people wrapped in burlap were huddled together, their faces bearing the scars of war, still watching them with wary eyes. "Please have a seat." Samyuta pointed to a worn-out carpet, then sat down, and said, "They are a terrorist organization with a huge force, having hundreds of thousands of troops aiming to occupy this region and establish the Dark Snake Empire. They are inherently brutal, killing without mercy. Anyone who resists them is killed. Many have attempted to organize resistance, but they have all been wiped out. If even one person in a village resists, they will slaughter the entire village. If one person in a city resists, they will fire 10,000 shells at the city. If 10 people resist, they will fire 100,000 shells. If 100 people resist, they will fire 1,000,000 shells at the city. They bomb cities one by one, destroying all surrounding villages and cities. Our city has also been reduced to this." Samuta's voice was heavy, shaking his head helplessly. "Each city fires 1,000,000 shells." Jinchang and Niao Fan Luo were both astonished. "How can they be so ruthless?" "Where are they?" Jinchang asked. "They have hundreds of strongholds and bases spread in all directions, constructed of thick iron plates impervious to shells and bullets. Therefore the resistance has no way to combat them and has been completely annihilated," Samyuta said. "Who is their leader?" Jinchang asked. "We don't know. Those who have seen their lower-ranking leaders have been killed. No one has ever seen the main leader," Samyuta said. "What are you here for?" Samyuta asked again. "We are here to find someone," Jinchang replied. "Oh, who are you looking for?" Samyuta inquired. Jinchang replied, "We have never seen them only. The previous chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually." "Are you looking for death? Do you want to die?" A man in black on a jeep shouted loudly, raising his rifle and aiming at Jinchang. Jinchang knew that the Dark Snake Organization would kill anyone they saw. He extended his super adamantium gauntlet and swatted the bullet away. The man in black widened his eyes and shouted, "Devil!" The sight of 4 jeeps and over a dozen men in black, all panicked, jumped down from the jeeps, hiding behind the vehicles, aiming their guns at Jinchong and firing. In an instant, dozens of bullets sprayed toward Jinchong. "Time slows down," Jinchong said. The bullets immediately appeared to fly in slow motion. Jinchong reached out and caught the bullets in his hand. The black-clad men, seeing Jinchong's hand stretch out like a machine gun, stood frozen, forgetting to fire. "Whoa!" Angelina, seeing Jinchong, made muffled sounds with her mouth bound by cloth, writhing as she tried to break free from the ropes. A man in black on a jeep turned a heavy machine gun toward Jinchong and opened fire. Jinchong raised his hand to block, and all the bullets from the heavy machine gun hit the super adamantium gauntlet, leaving not a single mark. Whoosh! Another black-clad man with a rocket launcher aimed at Jinchong. Jinchong grabbed the rocket launcher and threw it toward the jeep with the heavy machine gun, instantly causing a loud boom as a fireball erupted and the jeep was blown away. "Run! Run! He's a devil! A devil!" the black-clad men shouted, turning to flee in panic. "How did you get caught by them again?" Jinchong walked over and pulled the towel from Angelina's mouth. Angelina gasped for breath, unable to speak for a moment. Jinchong loosened her ropes and asked, "Where do you want to go?" "I made a major discovery and was preparing to return to my country, but unexpectedly the car broke down halfway, and then they caught up with me," Angelina answered, tearing off the ropes on her body. "You found the ancient city?" Jinchong asked, surprised. Angelina hurriedly ran to her broken jeep, lifted the canvas bag revealing a pile of gold and silver plates, and happily exclaimed, "Haha, great. Not a single one is lost. Wonderful." Then she spun around in joy. Jinchong approached to take a look, and it was indeed the treasure chests he had dug up, saying, "Is this your major discovery?" "Yes. When the car broke, I studied carefully, and these items are from 5,000 years ago. Now there are only 2 or 3 left in the world, and I discovered several large boxes at once. I will become a world-renowned figure, and all the archaeologists in the world will envy me, admire me, and respect me." "Ha ha." Angelina placed her hands on her hips, her eyes sparkling, laughing with a suppressed yet exhilarated laugh, the sound of her laughter slightly changing. "This chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually." At that moment, high above in the bright azure sky, amidst the luminous full moon, a golden-haired woman suddenly appeared, gracefully floating up and down within the vast moon. Her shoulder-length golden hair flowed like threads of gold, beautiful and cold, resembling ice and jade. Her pair of aquamarine eyes sparkled with clarity, and she wore a yellow jacket and a yellow skirt underneath, which was a form-fitting dark green bodysuit. A glistening emerald hung at her chest, her figure slender and elegant. Bathed in the moonlight, she appeared otherworldly, like a celestial maiden from the moon. In the moonlight, she wore a frosty expression, her aquamarine eyes cold as ice, looking down with indifference. As 100,000 shells were about to fall upon the city, threatening it with disaster, she extended her hand, her snow-white fingers spreading wide. Suddenly, the thousands of shells and rockets aimed at the ruined city changed direction, flying chaotically in all directions, as if splashing water upon impact with the ground. An explosive sound echoed throughout the city, with bursts of flames lighting up various spots and thick smoke rising from everywhere. Instantly, buildings collapsed, walls shattered, debris rolled, and the entire city trembled incessantly. 1,000 tanks and rocket vehicles continuously fired shells at the city, but upon reaching the city, they altered their trajectory, shooting chaotically in all directions. Jinchong, Niao Er, and Fa Yin Luo were utterly astonished, watching in disbelief as the shells changed direction, exploding in all parts of the disordered city. "All the trajectories of the shells have been altered." Fa Yin Luo, watching the three-dimensional image of the shells raining down on the city, was struck with shock as he witnessed each shell change direction upon reaching the city, exclaiming in astonishment, "What could possibly change the trajectories of tens of thousands of shells?" Jinchong also exclaimed in shock, finding it inconceivable. "Look up at the sky." Niao Er suddenly spotted the woman in the moon above, shouting loudly. He then piloted his small aircraft straight towards the moon, with Fa Yin Luo closely following. Jinchong looked up to see a golden-haired woman hovering in the moonlight. Upon noticing Niao Er and Fa Yin Luo flying towards her, he immediately took control of his small aircraft and soared into the sky. The woman noticed the three approaching her in the sky, her delicate brows slightly furrowed as she extended her hand and pushed. Niao Er, Fa Yin Luo, and Jinchong piloted their small aircraft at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour towards the moon, but just as they were about to reach it, the previous chapter was incomplete and required manual refresh. "Is it true that one won't die?" Fa Yinluo said, shooting several rounds of rocket bullets into the three-story iron tower room. The room erupted with a series of explosions, fire bursting forth and thick smoke billowing as the entire roof was blown away. Amidst the smoke and artillery fire, a massive figure emerged, its body clad in an iron frame equipped with gears, iron plates, and small tracks. 2 Gatling multi-barrel heavy machine guns were mounted on its arms, and iron shells hung from its shoulders, with its hands donned in iron gloves made of small iron blocks. Really want die? Fa Yanluo's eyes widened in astonishment. After muscle mutation and reinforcement, their strength is 10 times that of normal people. Similarly, their resistance is also 10 times stronger. I didn't expect that a purely enhanced body could withstand the explosion of rocket bullets. If there were hundreds of thousands of such troops, they would indeed be invincible in the world, Zhen Chong said. I eliminated those black-clad soldiers with a single shot. They likely haven't undergone muscle mutation and enhancement. So their muscle mutation and enhancement technology hasn't reached a widely used level. Only a few must possess it, Fa Yinluo remarked. Haha, how do you know we underwent muscle mutation and strengthening, and what technology are you using? Bird said. Suddenly the voice of Shimu was heard, having indeed survived stepping out from the thick smoke. Zhen Chong and Bird were quite puzzled as to how Shimu could hear their conversation from such a height. Bird pressed a button on the glasses, sending out X-ray and infrared beams to scan Shimu's entire body, then said, his body has also undergone muscle mutation. Haha, you are correct. The great dark snake king transformed the muscle tissue of General Shifu into that of a gorilla, so his body is not composed of human muscles, but gorilla muscles capable of producing strength akin to that of a gorilla, reaching up to 1,000 kilograms. You are no match for him. Additionally, my eyes and ears have been mutated into those of an owl, allowing me to hear your voices. Shimu tilted his head, blinking his owl-like eyes, and continued speaking. Shifu emerged from the flames and smoked 2 rows of bullets, swaying on the shoulder frame, exuding an imposing aura. He walked to the massive window, looked up at the 3 individuals standing on a small aircraft, then bent down, squatting, and with a push of his legs soared upward into the sky. At that moment, a multitude of tiny black dots appeared along the ground, extending from the distance towards the billion bacterial robots of the bird. They flowed into the underground factory through the emergence of the tank's tunnel, landing on iron pillars, iron frames, iron beds, and iron machines. As soon as they touched the iron substances, they began to gnaw off fine iron shavings, subsequently modifying and processing them into equally sized bacterial robots, thus perpetually self-replicating. The entire underground military factory was soon filled with numerous tiny dots, which increased in number and spread everywhere. Then the iron bars, iron frames, and iron beds of the factory began to rot slowly, revealing minute wormholes as the whole underground factory gradually became riddled with holes. Next, a series of thunderous sounds echoed as a dull crashing noise arose from below. Rows of steel bars and machine tools in the underground factory collapsed one after another, and gradually the entire factory's iron pillars and frames fell piece by piece to the ground. The bacterial robots in the underground factory, due to their self-replicating process of decomposing metal, multiplied exponentially. 1 became 2, and 100 billion transformed into 200 billion, then 400 billion. The underground resembled a surging ocean with trillions of bacterial robots devouring, destroying, and obliterating everything in their path. Any tank that stood before them was almost instantaneously reduced to dust. Without the support of the iron frames, the entire underground factory gradually collapsed. Then, with a tremendous roar, the ground suddenly sank. An area the size of 3 football fields plummeted several dozen meters, and the 3-story iron building was instantly buried beneath the collapsing ground, while hundreds of tanks and rocket vehicles around it sank into the subsiding earth. Zhen Chong stepped onto a small plane and flew into the sky, observing the collapsed ground. The bacterial robots are truly terrifying. Such a large factory was completely destroyed in no time. Fan Luo remarked, then added, they don't eat people, do they? The bird shot him a sidelong glance and replied, do you think I would create bacterial robots that eat people? If that were the case, there wouldn't even be an ant left in this desert. Zhen Chong said. As the ground suddenly collapsed, the snake belly was also startled and leaped forcefully away from the collapsing ground, managing to jump 50 meters away, escaping the area of collapse. He then looked at the buried underground factory and, raising his head, spoke in a heavy voice, this is your doing. It is. The bird was just about to speak. Zhen Chong and Fa Yinluo stood on a small airplane flying towards the location mentioned by Angelina. Suddenly, they spotted numerous tanks, artillery vehicles, and armored cars emerging from the ground, while swarms of helicopters emblazoned with the Dark Serpent insignia flew in from the sky. Soon more and more tanks, armored vehicles, and helicopters emerged from all directions, speeding forward. In no time, the sky and ground were filled with the forces of the Dark Serpent organization, dense and imposing, blotting out the sky and covering the land, sweeping away everything in their path. Fa Yin Luo used a three-dimensional imaging system to scan the surroundings and exclaimed in surprise, "The Dark Serpent forces, how can there be so many here? I discovered over 300 of their strongholds yesterday. Didn't the bird's bacterial robots dismantle them all? Then they must have more than 300 strongholds." Jinchang gazed at the sea of tanks and armored vehicles below. Fa Yin Luo examined the Dark Serpent forces through the three-dimensional imaging, observing each vehicle and plane, including the people inside, as three-dimensional images. Suddenly, he was taken aback and said, "Angelina, why is she in that armored vehicle? Wasn't Angelina in the ruined city?" Jinchang questioned, puzzled. "Look, she is clearly sitting in that vehicle. I can't be mistaken." Fa Yin Luo confirmed, looking closely, and indeed saw Angelina seated in an armored vehicle. Jinchang, using the long-range focus imaging feature of his glasses, exclaimed in astonishment, "Oh no, she must have been captured. Let's go save her." With that, he piloted the small airplane down from the sky, charging directly towards the armored vehicle. Fa Yin Luo drew his pistol and fired several rocket rounds at the tanks surrounding the heavily armored vehicle. There was a series of explosions as the vehicles around them erupted, flipping over. Jinchang rushed forward, activating his King God Diamond technique, extending his Super Diamond Alloy Gauntlet, and smashed the heavy iron door of the armored vehicle with a single punch. He then ripped the door off and threw it aside, shouting, "Angelina, hurry up," he said, picking up Angelina and climbing onto the small airplane, soaring straight into the sky. The surrounding Dark Serpent forces reacted, and the aircraft above and the tanks on the ground opened fire at Jinchang and Fa Yin Luo. In an instant, bullets rained like a storm, shells fell like locusts, and flames surged like a sea. On the vast desert land, thousands of excavators, bulldozers, and drilling machines were tirelessly digging, while countless helicopters shuttled back and forth, transporting soil, gradually revealing a series of bowl-shaped pits. The Dark Snake Squad worked from dawn until dusk as a massive bright moon ascended, hanging high in the sky. The ground's bowl-shaped pit slowly deepened and widened, and when it reached over 50 meters deep, a hole suddenly broke open and a beam of golden light shot out, piercing the sky. The hearts of the Dark Snake organization members tightened, each holding their breath. As they discerned the golden light, they gradually realized what it was, followed by a chorus of cheers. "The Golden City! The Golden City! We found the Golden City! We have located the Golden City!" The surrounding Dark Snake troops erupted in cheers, echoing all around, resonating through the clouds. The snake's back, belly, and tail laughed heartily, their expressions filled with excitement. Even the cold and imposing face of the snake's head revealed a smile as he said, "Continue digging until the entire Golden City is unearthed." "Yes," replied the soldiers in black. Then they relayed the order. The snake's head, "General commands to continue digging to unearth the entire ancient Golden City." Thousands of excavators, bulldozers, and drilling machines continued their vigorous digging, with a swarm of helicopters transporting soil back and forth. Subsequently, the desert opened up with a series of cavities, and beams of golden light shot up from the ground, illuminating the desolate earth with a brilliant and colorful glow. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted, and the ground trembled, cracking open countless fissures. Then large sections of the ground collapsed, and numerous excavators, bulldozers, and drilling machines fell along with the sinking earth. "Run! The ground is collapsing." The tens of thousands of excavators, bulldozers, and drilling machines in the desert panicked and fled. Suddenly, those massive sections of ground that had collapsed began to float up from below. "What?" Everyone was astonished, and everyone around was stunned. Fragments of ground rose up from beneath as those excavators, bulldozers, drilling machines, and construction vehicles that had fallen underground gradually floated up, slowly ascending towards the sky. "What?" The dignified and calm expression of the snake head was now visibly shaken, his face displaying astonishment as he watched the artillery shells soaring straight into the sky. Countless artillery shells shot upward from the ground, all of them striking back in a straight line towards the tanks and aircraft that had fired them, causing an earth-shattering roar. Flames erupted in a vast explosion, rolling across the sky and ground as tens of thousands of tanks and rockets were instantly destroyed by their own fired shells. "What is this? What kind of technology?" The snakehead was incredulous, still in shock. "No, this is not technology. This is power that cannot be possessed by mere technology. What kind of power does she possess? The snakehead gazed intently at the sky, muttering. Then he suddenly recalled the yellow crystal ball. She had appeared after the yellow crystal ball had vanished. The snakehead's eyes brightened as he said, could her power be related to that yellow crystal ball? Thinking of this, a sinister joy suddenly spread across the snakehead's face as he declared, I want that yellow crystal ball. Then with a more terrifying expression, he gritted his teeth and said each word with fierce determination, I also want her genes. Below, Angelia coldly observed everything before her, seemingly indifferent, showing no interest at all. In reality, her brain was rapidly analyzing, calculating everything happening before her, assessing the final outcome. Bring out my dark serpent armor, the snakehead commanded. At this moment, a dark green-tinged human armor flew out from the dark serpent flying fortress above, flames erupting from its feet, and the patterns on it made the armor appear as menacing as a dark serpent. This armor was made from the world's hardest metal alloy, newly researched by all the scientists of the Dark Serpent organization, known as Dark Serpent alloy, with a hardness level of 12, impervious even to super diamonds. The Dark Serpent armor shot flames from its feet, automatically flying in front of the snakehead. The front of the armor opened automatically as the snakehead stepped inside. The armor then closed, perfectly fitting his stature, indicating that it was custom-made for him. Fully clad in dark serpent armor, the snakehead moved his arms and stretched out his hands, a metallic mechanical sound echoing from his body as he commanded, continue firing, all troops. You three come with me to capture that woman. I want the yellow crystal ball and her genes. After the snakehead finished speaking, the dark serpent armor shot out several beams of flames and soared into the sky, charging towards the blonde girl above. Yes. The three generals, Snakeback, Snakebelly, and Snaketail, replied in unison, their flying human machines also erupting with flames as they followed closely behind. The serpent head, clad in dark serpent steel armor, stood atop the flying fortress, gazing up at the golden-haired girl in the sky, pondering deeply before uttering, what on earth is that ability? Then looking down at the golden city suspended in midair, he commanded, all personnel board the aircraft and ascend to the golden city. Immediately, thousands of twin-rotor helicopters darkened the sky above the Golden City. Ropes were thrown down, and countless Dark Serpent soldiers slid down the ropes from the aircraft, entering the Golden City. As the Dark Serpent soldiers landed in the Golden City, they were greeted by a dazzling array of diamonds, jewels, emeralds, and agates piled high everywhere, shining brilliantly in the bright moonlight, colorful and resplendent. The Dark Serpent soldiers were instantly ecstatic, laughing heartily as they scooped up jewels and tossed them into the sky. The golden-haired girl in the sky noticed the thousands of Dark Serpent soldiers entering the Golden City. She reached out, and in an instant those soldiers vanished, only to fall from the sky to the ground. Then she waved her hand towards the aircraft hovering above the Golden City, and in a flash the thousands of planes disappeared, reappearing in the surrounding sky. Subsequently, one by one, the planes suddenly tilted upright and split apart as if cut by a knife, dividing into halves, then horizontally splitting again into quarters, crashing down with a thunderous roar, igniting clouds of flames and smoke. The serpent head was shocked, standing there in a daze as he looked at the golden-haired girl in the sky, wondering what kind of power that was. He realized that he was on a completely different technological level than her, like a primitive person performing tricks before a high civilization from another planet. Although he mobilized all his strength in the face of her power, the idea of seizing the Golden City seemed almost impossible. Cease fire, retreat, the serpent head suddenly commanded, then entered the flying fortress where the dark serpent armor opened, allowing him to step out and sit upon the throne. The flying fortress headed towards the dark serpent central base. The tanks and artillery scattered across the hills abruptly halted, then began to retreat in all directions into the desolate wilderness and mountains, as if swept away by a flood, vanishing into the wasteland and mountains. On the vast desert, countless destroyed and exploded tanks, artillery, and aircraft wreckage were scattered across the land, burning fiercely with thick smoke billowing. The endless earth was pockmarked by shellfire, scarred and battered, a sight of utter devastation. Great. They finally left, said Fianluo, sighing in relief. 8-part Army King Palm. But everything will happen again along the same trajectory. The Army King charged fiercely, once more raising his fist to strike at Jinchong. Jinchong, aware of the Army King's attack patterns and timing, hurriedly extended his super adamantium gauntlets to defend and evade. Military law palm. Military command palm. Military law enforcement. The Army King's military command palm and military law palm struck relentlessly at Jinchong. The terrifying power could kill with a single blow. Zhenchang dared not meet it, heated, exerting all his strength to continuously block and dodge. Each palm of the army king hit the walls and floors, shaking everything. Boom, 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 boom. The hall was filled with resounding explosions, with debris flying and tremors shaking the ground. The walls and floor, constructed of massive stones, were battered into a pockmarked landscape, cracking into pieces. Zhenchang was astonished. This was the power of the army king, unstoppable and unbreakable. The surrounding walls and floor were riddled with cracks spreading throughout the hall, nearly reducing it to rubble. As the army king launched attack after attack, Zhenchang desperately dodged. However, in a moment of carelessness, a palm struck him, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly back, crashing onto the ground and splattering blood everywhere. He staggered to his feet. Bang, bang, bang. With several strikes, Zhenchang's body was once again battered, blood spurting everywhere. During the 1 minute of time reversal, he could not use the ability again until that minute had passed. Zhenchang focused all his efforts to protect his life, enduring the army king's attacks for an entire minute. After the minute ended, Zhenchang immediately used time reversal, sending everything back to a minute prior, witnessing his injuries vanish, instantly restored to his former state. However, the Dragon Ball energy diminished with each use of the time ability. Time reversal can only restore matter, bringing all matter back to a previous time, but cannot restore Dragon Ball energy. Thus, the consumed energy is irrecoverable through time reversal. Huff huff, Zhenchang gasped for breath, fully exerting himself to resist and evade the army king's terrifying lethal attacks. Each dodge felt like risking his life. Oh, he used all his strength just to barely escape. Zhenchang looked at the army king, his robust figure resembling a fearsome demon standing before him. The terrifying power could kill with a single hit. His own strength of 300 kilograms was utterly insignificant before him, no match at all. If not for time reversal, he would have died several times already. Under the castle, a tank fired a shell, destroying the armored vehicle of the bird. The bird, cloaked in invisibility, stealthily crawled out of the armored vehicle and said, "You use a tank, I will use a tank as well." Then she quietly slipped through the encircling soldiers and made her way to a distant tank. She climbed into the tank, took control of the turret, adjusted the cannon, and aimed at the tank that had just fired at the armored vehicle. With a loud bang, flames erupted from the cannon, and a shell shot forth, striking the tank. With a tremendous roar, the tank was instantly destroyed, billowing thick smoke. The surrounding soldiers were taken aback and hastily retreated, encircling the tank in astonishment, confused as to why one tank had suddenly destroyed another. Haha, wonderful. The little bird clapped her hands in joy inside the tank, then went to retrieve a shell, eager to load another shell into the tank's cannon. She hugged the shell with both hands, exerting all her strength to lift it, but the tank shell weighed dozens of kilograms. Her little face turned bright red, yet it did not budge. Out of breath, she panted, "So heavy. Once I get back, I will create many weapons, ones far more advanced than yours and smaller, yet more powerful." Looking outside, she saw soldiers surrounding the tank, eager to see what had happened. The little bird started the tank and drove it rumbling toward the castle gate. The soldiers, startled, quickly moved aside. She maneuvered the tank to block the entrance, climbed out, and got into another tank, driving it to the gate as well. In this manner, the little bird, cloaked in invisibility, managed to position 3 tanks at the castle entrance, their long cannons menacingly aimed at the surrounding soldiers, as she declared, "Now you cannot enter." The surrounding soldiers, witnessing 3 tanks autonomously positioning themselves at the castle gate, retreated in disbelief, completely baffled by the situation. They could not understand why the 3 tanks were blocking the entrance and found themselves unable to advance for the time being. At that moment, a strong voice came through the electronic mirror, "Bird, the army king has been defeated by me. Hurry up, Fa Yinluo is pierced with barbed iron spikes and shackled on an iron frame. Come and free him." "Great. I'm on my way." The little bird exclaimed in delight, preparing to crawl out of the tank while cloaked in invisibility. At that moment, the commanding colonel shouted loudly, "Attack with the tanks." In the distance, soldiers climbed into tanks, rumbling as they turned to aim at the 3 tanks blocking the castle entrance. With a loud bang, a shell flew in, striking one of the tanks blocking the castle and erupting into a fireball, shaking it violently. Ouch! Just as the little bird was crawling out, she was suddenly blasted back into the tank. Fa Yinluo listened to the little bird introducing so many functions, gazing at his own tattered and worn gray-black trench coat and wide-brimmed hat, which had now transformed into such a marvelous Dragon Ball battlesuit, leaving him quite astonished. He stepped forward, retrieving his Dragon Ball battlesuit from the glass cabinet. It was identical in style to the original, without a single difference. As he donned it, he wore a yellow coat with golden trims on the outside and matching fitted trousers underneath, topped with a yellow gold-trimmed wide-brimmed hat and a golden belt around his waist. On either side of the belt hung 2 holsters, and an artistic dragon emblem adorned his chest hat and left sleeve, complementing his height of over 185 meters, creating a resplendent and gallant figure. He felt the fabric of his clothes and the buttons on his belt, observing how the entire Dragon Ball battle code had transformed from its original gray-black to a vibrant yellow with golden trims, imparting a sense of futurism, fashion, and technological advancement, while also conveying an unyielding sense of resilience. The little bird picked up a transparent semi-arc electronic mirror from the table, which was nearly invisible at first glance, and handed it to Fa Yinluo. "Is this also for me?" Fa Yinluo held the semi-arc electronic mirror, which was shaped like a curved glass piece, as thin and transparent as crystal, revealing only faint contours that were almost undetectable. As it moved, a flowing point of light glided across the surface of the mirror, appearing novel, fashionable, and filled with a strong sense of futurism. Upon wearing it, the world before him instantly brightened. His vision became clear and crystal-like, allowing him to see his surroundings in greater detail. The little bird continued, "This is what I've made for you these past few days." The electronic mirror has global communication capabilities, allowing us to stay in contact. It also features ultra-long-distance focal imaging, X-ray, and infrared scanning functions, giving you the ability to see through objects and night vision capabilities. The thermal imaging function lets you see people behind walls, as well as heat sensing to detect warmth in any location, whether biological or energy heat. Additionally, it can take photos and videos, access the internet to browse websites, watch movies, and play games. If you find the screen too small, it has a projection feature, and if 2D isn't appealing, there's a holographic 3D projection capability. It can also transform into a bulletproof helmet to wear on your head, with all functions controlled via the buttons on the side of the electronic mirror. "So many functions," Fa Yinluo marveled again. He pressed a button, and the electronic mirror extended 2 thin glass panels from the top and bottom, encasing his entire head and integrating with the collar of his battle suit to form a transparent helmet. The little bird said, "The current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually." On a secluded street in the city, 3 thugs cornered a young girl against the wall, brandishing knives. The girl, clutching her bag tightly, retreated, repeatedly saying, "You little girl, daring to come here alone, do you not fear danger? Let us protect you. Come into the arms of your elder brother. It's warm and safe here." "No, I just got off my night shift and took this way to get home quickly," the girl said in panic, her fearful eyes darting between the 3 thugs, feeling utterly helpless. "Oh, so you have a job? It's hard to find work these days. Hand over your salary," another thug said. I haven't been paid yet," the girl timidly replied. The girl said, retreating further until she suddenly bumped against the wall. Looking around, she realized she was trapped with no way out. Terrified, she cried and pleaded, "Please let me go. I really haven't been paid yet. It's not every day we encounter a beauty. How can we let her go?" "If you haven't been paid, then your body shall be your payment," the thug said as he lunged towards the girl. Suddenly, a figure shot down from the sky, standing in front of the girl. "Huh? Who are you? Step aside. Otherwise, they'll stab you to death." The 3 thugs were taken aback, and one of them, brandishing a shiny knife, shouted ferociously. Jinchong pressed the red button on the electronic frame, shooting out beams of various colors that scanned the 3 thugs, revealing no skills or levels. All the displayed data indicated they were ordinary people. Seeing that he did not respond, the thugs encouraged each other and lunged with their knives. Jinchong reached out, using the tiger gate seizing hand to grip the wrist of the thug, who attacked, locking the pressure point, causing the thug to scream in agony, his body paralyzed and collapsing to the ground. At that moment, the other 2 thugs charged at him. Bang! 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 Jinchong landed 3 punches on the vital points of the 3 thugs, who could not emit a sound, as they were sent flying, crashing to the ground, spitting blood and writhing in pain. Jinchong then stepped onto a small aircraft, emitting a blinding white light and soaring into the dark sky. The girl watched in astonishment as Jinchong ascended, then glanced back at the 3 thugs struggling in pain on the ground before hurriedly turning to flee. Meanwhile, 2 robbers burst into a household, robbing it extensively before preparing to escape. Suddenly, a shadow swooped in, and the 2 robbers were lifted off the ground, astonished to find themselves caught each in a hand. Jinchong held one in each hand and flew above the house, releasing them and letting the 2 robbers plummet to the ground. They screamed as they fell, scattering the stolen goods all over. The family of the house rushed out to see the 2 robbers lying motionless on the ground with their loot strewn about. They hurriedly began gathering the items and returned inside. Elsewhere, two arsonists were pouring gasoline around a house preparing to set it ablaze. However, after attempting to ignite it, they found it would not catch fire. Upon closer inspection, they realized all the gasoline had turned to water. One of them remarked, "Did you not bring gasoline?" The other replied, "I brought gasoline." The first responded, "This is clearly water. How can it be gasoline?" The other one exclaimed in disbelief, "I clearly see that the current chapter is incomplete. Please refresh manually." "Yes," the youth murmured, lying prone on the ground as he strained to rise, only to wince in sharp agony with every movement. "Don't move," the bird said, gently picking up a stone and using its atomic ability to restructure the silicon dioxide at the molecular level, transforming it into metallic atoms and gradually assembling a compact instrument. It then slowly scanned the device over the youth's wounds, whereupon his injuries sealed themselves with astonishing speed, leaving his body whole and unblemished within moments. The youth stared in disbelief at his once mangled body, now completely healed without even a trace of scarring, as he gazed at Jinchong and the bird. Jinchong, equally astounded, exclaimed, "Bird, what is that? How could wounds close so swiftly?" "This is a cellular activation device, also known as a wound healing instrument," the bird explained. "It automatically stimulates cellular activity, accelerating both cell division and regeneration to achieve rapid tissue repair." Then, extending a wing toward the youth's fractured arm, the bird activated its atomic ability and intoned, "Calcium activation." Instantly, the calcium deposits at the fracture site surged with vitality, knitting together with seamless precision. Within moments, the shattered bone fused into a single robust structure, the youth's arm restored fully strong and intact. Feeling the broken bones in his arm reknit and reconnect with uncanny speed, the youth stared at his own arms, astonished beyond words. Jinchong watched in awe as the bird manipulated biological calcium within human bone, direct atomic control over living tissue, deeming it nothing short of miraculous. Next, the bird turned its focus to the youth's fractured legs, again activating calcium at the breakpoints. Gradually, the stimulated calcium refused seamlessly, bridging the gaps, until both legs were whole, once more restored to perfect function in mere instants. The youth rose to his feet, flexing his arms and legs, sensing no discomfort or anomaly, only wonder mingled with exhilaration. Jinchong watched, deeply impressed, as the youth, who had moments before lain broken, now stood upright, his recovery a testament to the bird's extraordinary atomic mastery over the human skeleton. The bird scanned the youth's hands with an electronic lens and said, "Your hand bones are utterly pulverized. Numerous fragments have pierced deep into muscle and flesh. Even calcium activation alone cannot reconstruct them properly. So I will decompose those embedded shards into elemental calcium atoms, then fuse them with iron atoms drawn from your bloodstream, forging new hand bones composed of calcium iron alloy. They will be harder than steel, but they will never grow again. Their size is now fixed forever." As it spoke, the bird directed its atomic power toward the youth's hands, first activating and disintegrating the calcium fragments lodged in his palms, then drawing iron from his blood and binding it with the liberated calcium atoms, channeling the amalgam precisely onto the shattered bone matrix until two gleaming hybrid hand bones coalesced anew. "There, you now possess hand bones stronger than tempered steel, though they will not regenerate. Henceforth, consume iron-rich foods regularly to replenish the iron drawn from your blood." The youth stared incredulously at his clenched fist, then squeezed it experimentally, hearing crisp, resonant cracks. Its density and resilience stunned him. Gripping tightly, he struck a nearby boulder, and with a thunderous boom, stone exploded outward, shattering into jagged fragments. Staggered by the sheer force he now wielded, he gazed at his fist, a slow smile spreading across his face as he turned to the bird and Jinchong. "This is incredible. I cannot thank you enough." He regarded the bird with profound reverence, his shattered limbs, his very survival, owed entirely to her. Jinchong too was stunned. The bird's atomic ability had wrought something unprecedented. Even his own fists could not shatter stone so effortlessly. Pressing the red button on his eyepiece, he emitted intersecting beams of red, blue, and green light, scanning the youth anew. His updated biometric readout appeared. Bone density 175. Muscle strength 89. Chi blood vitality 63. Thermal energy output 62. Special skills none. Speed 8 milliseconds. Strength 175 kilograms. Attack power 840 kilograms. Defense rating 175 kilograms. Combat Tier B. Jinchong recoiled in shock. By reinforcing the youth's hand bones with calcium iron alloy, the bird had elevated his bone density by 90 points to 175 and his attack power to 840 kilograms. Though lacking special techniques, he had instantly ascended to Tier B, 2 levels above Zhenchang himself. Bird Zhenchang asked, how did his attack power surge past 800 kilograms just from healing his hands? I fused iron and calcium atoms to form his hand bones, the bird replied. Their hardness is double that of natural calcium-based bone, hence his striking power doubled accordingly. And as I mentioned earlier, the bird added, any of the 4 core metrics exceeding 100 grants multiplicative bonuses to attack power. Ah, I see now, Zhenchang murmured. Turning to the youth, who still stared at his fist in dazed wonder, Zhenchang asked, what is your name? And what happened to your sister? Lowering his fist, the youth answered, my name is Kai. I lived with my family in a small mountain village. One day, returning from hunting in the forest, I found everyone slaughtered, my parents slain, in our home my sister vanished. All adults were dead, every child had disappeared. In the village I discovered this emblem. As he spoke, Kai produced a small insignia bearing the character Wu, Martial. Others told me it belongs to the Martial King. The Martial King, Zhenchang, and the bird cried in unison. Fa Yinluo had once revealed that the Eightfold Legion dispatched raiders annually to abduct children. Kai's sister had almost certainly been taken by the Martial King's forces. Kai continued, I followed the trail of footprints all the way to this city and saw the same emblem displayed at their martial hall. So I went inside searching for my sister. After subduing several guards, I was captured. They crushed my hands with hammers. With no coin for treatment, I hid for days, then returned to find her. But they seized me again and shattered my arms and legs. Rage flared in Zhenchang's eyes. Such brutality, from a mere martial hall. He whirled toward the lead enforcer. Where is his sister? The enforcer stammered in panic. I've never seen her. I don't know where she is. Her name is Shui Honghua. Have you seen her? Kai demanded, his voice burning with fury as he drew forth a photograph, a little girl with luminous, sparkling eyes. Innocent and radiant. A little girl with luminous, sparkling eyes. Innocent and radiant. I truly don't know her. We take dozens of children each time. We can't track who belongs to whom. The enforcer pleaded, trembling. How many times have you abducted children? Where are they held now?